today's guest, longtime comic, Ami Kozak.
Into the Lion's Den.
And the mislabeled podcast. What is this? Oh!
Ami Kozak, welcome to the show.
Buckle up, sweet. You imitating Gary Vee and imitating me. I
get it, right? A humility. I get it.
I was telling we had 30 podcast guests in one episode now.
But in order to start at something and get good, you have to start by not being very good at all,
Ami is a comedian. This is not what he regularly does. This is something that he is just obviously passionate about.
Post October 7th, when the world is certainly happy to shine a light on us as Jews in a negative way, it's like, well, screw that. We're all Jews, and we should be proud to be.
The boys at Mislabeled, the podcast, put me with some nice love. So I'm a big fan. I love those guys.
Keep going.
Now I'm in the label one, right here in the throat. You're like getting very tense and like your neck goes like crazy when you're talking about Hamas and it's going too long and you want to move on to other subjects. It's just like, veins busted. It's like, come on, too much on this like serious shit. Let's get funny. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Mislabeled. Firstly, very quickly, before we get to today's guest, if you're watching this, please like, subscribe, and comment. We would appreciate it greatly. Thank you so much. Now, with that being said, let's go right into things. First of all, we hope you enjoy the last episode where we unveiled the one, the only, the great Dovi Neuberger, who we are extremely excited to have as our new co-host. We are looking forward to doing next level things, right, Dovi?
I am here, yeah.
He's stoked. Zach called me up also, by the way, just FYI, after the pod. He's like, dude, we're taking this to the moon. This guy is the next legend of our time, right, Zach?
Is that true? You didn't say that to me.
No, you lied.
I got a call from Laibel saying, hey, we picked a guy. By the way, we picked a guy. He sent me 2 YouTube links. I looked at 1.5 minutes. I said, yeah, okay, good.
He did.
Good choice.
Which YouTube was it?
I sent him the things you sent me.
Oh, one of my stand-ups.
Yeah. And right away, he's like, I watched once. Like, he actually voice noted me that. He's like, Laibel, I watched 2 seconds. I like this guy.
No, I saw the douchebag hair. I'm like, he's perfect.
There you go.
I think you're in for a treat with this one.
Yeah.
It's going to do well for you guys. It's going to do very well for these guys.
Big things, big things.
Okay, to today's guest, longtime comic, Ami Kozak. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Into the Lion's Den.
Into the Lions. This is not the Lions Den, brother. Like, trust me, there's...
In the spirit of Achdus, here we go, coming together, right?
There's a lot more people that would consider themselves in the Lion's Den than you.
Yeah. I know. I'm cute. It's all
You're a man. This is not a Lions Den.
Hey, it's all kibitzing and fun in the podcast.
Zach wants to put his foot down right now. He wants to make sure there's no Yiddish words being said on this podcast, as well
we're
as
trying this new thing where we pretend that we don't pretend our whole audience is Jews.
Yeah.
And we want to go like, hey, we love that. But no, Goyim, come here.
Oh, I see. I'm all about the opposite these days. It's just like I am only a Jew these days.
You've been buckling down on the Judaism.
Oh, yeah.
But you'll talk yeshivish on a pod?
Why not?
Well, to him, it's not natural. That's why. To him, it's a shtick.
It's a bit.
It's a bit. It's like a persona.
Correct.
Our culture isn't your costume. You know that, right? You can't just be using
I'm culturally appropriating
appropriating
yeshivish Judaism as a modern Orthodox Jew. Now we're fully in the inside
If I so
baseball.
much as hear you ever say the word shtim, I'm going to be sending a very angry.
So what is shtim?
It's like to mix with.
Yeah.
Shtim.
Yeah.
it's a good word, by the way.
I thought I knew a lot, and I just did a whole sketch trying to be a yeshivish guy, but
That was excellent, by the way.
I just learned shtim, yeah?
He played the quintessential yeshivish Jew at the
The Hanukkah party. I saw that with Elon Gold. Yeah, very nice.
With the token, like, non-religious and modern Orthodox Jews that work in the same company. And they're, like, apologizing for him.
I'm about to make a whole big thing, because nowadays in Hollywood, if you have an actor playing, let's say, someone autistic, right?
Yeah.
And they, like, people get upset. Like, you cannot, at the very least, hire him to be your yeshivish consultant. Like, you can't just be willy-nilly representing
Did I need
us.
one? He's saying I didn't need one.
No, it was great. I thought
it stimmed really well.
That wasn't the right
Did you have
word.
to speak to people, or you already know at this point?
I know, and I don't know. Shtim is somewhat new. And there's certain things. There's always like little nuances.
He says things I don't know.
But yeah, exactly.
And I don't.
You definitely do.
Yeah, come on.
There's always a little bit of that curve, even Teaneck Jews don't fully understand Englewood Jews. It's like we're splitting hairs at a certain point. But we've all been exposed to each other enough to.
Right. When you do the mikvah night jokes at Englewood, like, probably no one gets them.
That's what I mean. They all get them. But that's what I'm saying. You assume they don't. But Englewood's not like Scarsdale and not like all, that's what I'm saying.
You really need to know your audience.
Englewood's make for strong, and we've already lost the goyim. So.
But our 3 non-Jews are like, no,
but it's not even a yantif. Mamish, it's disgusting. I didn't know. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. Thank God. Baruch Hashem.
People don't realize this is that there's really people think there's like one type of Orthodox Jew.
Oh my gosh.
There's like 48 flavors.
Yeah.
And some of them don't talk to each other. They've like not they talk shit. They can't understand.
Right. I mean,
culturally.
If we're atomized into these different groups, like broadly speaking, Sephardic, Ashkenazic, conservative, Reform, Orthodox, split each one of them open, like the molecules come out in terms of within Orthodox itself. Right. I don't know. I'm sure it's true in other denominations with conservative and Reform. If you split those open, what you get. With Orthodox, for sure.
But there's also
with the lens. I'm sure to the outside world, we're all exactly the same.
I think with Orthodox, there's more layers. Yeah. I think that like
Hasidic Jews. Look at that. I mean, they are all like
But forget about that. You could talk to like a Lakewood guy. He'll start explaining to you the difference between
Tom's River and
forget about Tom's River.
Say better.
Whatever. Each exact. It gets. Trust me, I've been around people that really are like.
I just heard about this. You just mentioned him. This is new to me. There's something Safard. What was that?
I just
Sephardi.
said. Yes,
what is
Sephardic and Ashkenazi?
So that's new.
Yeah, so Jews that descend from Spain and and certain Arabian Peninsula.
They sound second class.
I wish I was Sephardi. Does everyone here wish they were Sephardi also?
Yeah, I would want to be Syrian.
Yeah. I'd be so much better looking. Everyone would be so much better.
You're
looking.
like, well, you could be a white passing Syrian. I've seen plenty of
those. Can I
see that
you
too.
dress and act like a Syrian.
And I used to have my hair like a Syrian. Do you remember that?
Yeah. You used to do the hair.
And then in 3 years, you'd be old enough to marry a 17-year-old girl.
Exactly.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I just feel like Sephardi people, they just have the genes. I don't know. Just something I've always believed. I don't think it's true.
We do it to like I know when I get I have this bit where I get approached by like Christian missionaries and like different types of like Mormons. Mm-hmm. And like there's the Mormons that like do multiple wives and the Mormons that don't do multiple wives. So like because like the one thing we all know about Mormons is like multiple wives. Right. So like anytime they approach me, I'm like, oh, so like I get to have more than one wife. They're like, no, we're not that kind of Mormon. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. That's your best selling pitch, dude.
I've never had Sephardi envy. They're cool, but I feel pretty good. I like
even Pesach time.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
So Sephardim are just allowed to do whatever they want. It's just like there's always a way out. I feel like always.
Sephardic men.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah, the women are. That's true.
Well, I want to jump off of that because you were just saying when we started this conversation that like recently you've been all Jewish. So like let's start with that. Let's talk about that because you've been kind of big on the internet for a while now, and very clearly since October 7th, you did a sort of an about face, a little bit of a brand switch, and you've become like a Jewish activist, kind of, and really just big on Israel. And like, I see you talking to politicians. Talk to us a little bit about that, how that come to be. Is this the beginning of your Israel advocacy, or is this something that's been with you for a while, and kind of what that switch has been like for you?
Yeah, I definitely have dispelled with the notion of the hierarchy of coolness when it comes to Jewy and non-Jewy, and trying to sort of be an incognito Jew out there in the entertainment world at a certain point. The more authentic you become, especially with social media, you begin to learn that the deeper you go, like the better the reward and the better the audience, I think, respects and appreciates that. You guys had Gary Vee on. Yeah. You could have just asked me. But you had Gary Vee on. I prefer to go deep, not wide, right? like that's some real shit. I prefer to go deep, not wide. But, the more you do it, it makes perfect sense that
his eyes are always so wide.
I just want to say one thing. You imitating Gary Vee and imitating me, I feel
I get it, right? A humility. I get it. But what I will say is
30 podcast guests in one episode now.
When you have no leverage in the very beginning of your career when you're starting out, you're trying to just cast this super wide net. And you're really trying to be, it's like when you're dating, right? You're dating your audience and you're trying to build an audience. In the beginning, you're like, Louis C.K.
We all actually do literally date our audience.
You're like every type of guy. You don't really even know yourself yet. So you're just kind of like throwing yourself up against the world and seeing how the world responds. But you don't really form a true sense of identity just yet. And with that, the world kind of responds. And with with little bits of success along the way and validation, you begin to sort of reveal more and more of yourself and get more and more comfortable. So your relationship to an audience is kind of like dating. And then at a certain point in time, you just feel comfortable enough that you're able to have enough confidence and creative sensibility to to just be you. And
know how I
in
date, by the way?
in the full totality of yourself.
First date, bro, I'm myself. I can tell you that
That's
right
a problem. And that's a problem.
And you're single, Laibel.
And that's a problem.
in fairness, we all are.
I don't like judge the previous iterations of myself for not doing that. I think it's a natural progression and it's a gradual progression. You can't just on the first date start divulging everything that you are in the totality. It might be very overwhelming and it might not be fully digestible or understood.
I'm not known to be an overwhelming person.
Really? I think what you're doing right now, to me at least, from my vantage point, seems very unique because you have like the Ben Shapiro's of the world. I'm not saying not as a comedian. He's meaning what a very famous Orthodox Jew who wears a yarmulke.
Yeah,
but nothing he says is from. Right? He's a very palatable. Everything that comes out of him, he's a content machine, is palatable to a full secular audience.
Right.
I'm seeing you talking to Candace Owens. I'm seeing you do this. I'm seeing your Jordan Peterson video go viral. You're talking to Adam Carolla, whatever it may be. And then I'm seeing a Jay sketch thing, and you're talking about a mincha joke that 90% of your new audience is going to be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? So is that an on purpose move on your part? You're like, I don't care. Like, I'm going deeper into what I'm actually coming from.
I think you begin to realize over time that what makes you competitive as an entertainer is the things only you can do as a skill stack and as a creative. There's a lot of people who can joke about dating and marriage and food.
Airlines.
There's a lot of material out there to talk about. How many people can joke about mincha, can do that?
Only you, I mean.
No, there's a select few in this space, and it used to be looked at as like, oh, on the coolness hierarchy. I mean, that's all good, like for Jews. But when I get out there, I'll put on a hat. I mean, I'll still cover my head and like wear something. But like I'll be somebody who happens to be Jewish, and they'll find that out later. That's cool, but that's private, and I'm just kind of done with that, especially post October 7th when, it sort of summoned the sense of, the identity of being a Jew as paramount. Like that's the first thing that matters. Everything else kind of melts away. It kind of is like when someone's sick or ill, when you go through something really difficult, traumatic, like everything else in your life trivializes a little bit.
Brings your perspective.
Perspective. It just makes everything, it puts everything into a new framework of like priority of like, okay, all this other fun stuff I get to do, that's all well and good. But right now, all my creative energy was channeled into sort of speaking out on behalf of myself as a Jew and the Jewish community in Israel. And I thought I was, it's funny enough, like I thought I was taking a departure from what I do entertainment wise. And that ended up throwing me back into all of the things I was involved in terms of parodying the intellectual dark web and the Jordan Petersons and all this stuff that I consumed before. They all kind of knew me a little bit, but this threw me right into that world. So it actually didn't take me away. It threw me deeper into it by being more of who I was and more of a totality of an entertainer as opposed to just shtick and sketches and impressions. That's all great and entertaining, but I think once it expanded who I was as an artist, so to speak, in the totality of like what I think about things. And, you learn, if you study enough Jordan Peterson, one of the things he talks about is like, you don't even know yourself, half as well as you think you do. And you don't. You don't even know yourself. So trying to figure out other people.
It's disconcerting to hear that live.
It's like you barely know yourself, So that's what I would see. And you don't know yourself.
Crying, by the way, yet?
What? It's like, you got me cracked up. It's like, well,
it's next.
Have you interacted with him?
It's really crazy.
He shared a few videos on his Twitter, but not since then. And it hurts.
Did he actually?
Yeah, he shared. He's aware.
That's amazing.
One day he's going to write a
Ben
poem
Shapiro's checked out a video. A bunch of people at the Daily Wire. Everything kind of circulates. But we haven't had direct interaction yet. But I see it coming. But the point is, you don't know yourself until you try different things, and you have to. And like all of a sudden you realize, oh, I guess people have responded to my serious takes on certain things. And with that said, back to the original point, like forget the idea at this point in time, post October 7th, when the world is certainly happy to shine a light on us as Jews in a negative way. It's like, well, screw that. Like, we're all Jews and we should be proud to be. And not to sound preachy, but like, it shouldn't be seen as less cool to be publicly Jewish. And I think we all do that a little bit. We all try to say, I'm Orthodox. I won't go on Shabbos, but no one has to know why.
What on Shabbos?
I won't do the gig on Shabbos, or I'll have these things. But like, I feel like there's a lot of, besides the Matisyahu's of the world, who was like kind of in line with their brand to be like a religious Jew when he was coming up. I mean, people who happen to be Orthodox, that's exactly what it is.
Right.
Happen to be Orthodox, and there's a few of them. So like, I'm kind of over that.
You're 100%.
Beautiful.
Did you? I was saying something actually similar about this outside before.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
All right. Did you? I was out of curiosity. I was wondering. You have did you lose like non-Jewish followers over all your advocacy for Israel over the last? Because I saw that Jewish
Only
family.
certain types. About 14,000, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
What do you mean by certain types?
Oh, cool. He lost mislabeled. Sweet.
certain types. When you say no, I mean like there's people who are like just I think in the like evangelical Christian community I gained a bunch.
Right.
But in certain communities that are
They're gonna start sending you Bible verses in your DMs.
well, that got weird. Some
what
of them
do
are
DMs
like
look
some of them we love you. You are the part of the chosen people. We support Jews. We support Israel. Now come to Jesus. Oh, whoa, hey.
Hey.
We keep them in the friend zone, but we appreciate the Christian support. I don't know. Certain types of fans, like temperamentally, are I don't know, like crazy people who I don't know. Some people, it was very weird, the cross section. So I lost I think in total 14,000, but I gained 15,000. So I'm right back where I started.
Oh,
hell
wow,
yeah!
gosh.
And better people, and people that you would rather also,
What's that?
and followers that you would rather have also.
Sure. I mean, the people who left because of support for Israel post October 7th, it's like, what do I want with those people?
Right, that's
it's
what I'm
ridiculous. And I kind of reached this point where, it was beyond politics. Like I wasn't like, well, this is a political issue I happen to be passionate about. It felt way bigger than that. Like seeing videos of a modern day Holocaust coming out, followed by Holocaust celebration and Holocaust denial at the same
Yeah, it's
time.
really crazy that they're
You're like,
denying
wait
it.
a minute. So there's denial of this and celebration of this simultaneously by these groups. This is not a time, and I'm not going to say it's not a time to do, I'm not going to say comedy doesn't belong, but it's like, if we can't all agree to respect each other's basic dignity and human rights, like comedy's days are numbered. Comedy exists in a culture and a society in which you can actually, all agree on certain terms, like respect for our
Certain
dignity.
tenets.
And certain principles. And it felt like that fundamental thing was being violated. So that's why I felt really compelled at first to start speaking out about that, to kind of issue a little corrective. It's like, where do we stand here?
Let me ask you this: on the in the Ami Kozak company, does calls for genocide of Jews go against the employee handbook and code of conduct?
Well, it would depend if that language leads to conduct and leads to harm. We would have to evaluate that on a case-by-case basis. And we defer to the spirit of the U.S. Constitution in the Ami Kozak official handbook, in which it depends. Only for Jews, though.
How long does it take for you to get like a impersonation down?
To cook?
Yeah, like that like nobody knew that person a week ago.
Did I do an impression or just
I don't
like an
think you even
impression?
Yeah, that wasn't an
That wasn't
impression.
an
That was just
I just kind of...
Oh, I thought I was watching the hearings.
that was just a snooty voice.
Yeah, I did. I in that scenario in particular, the impression didn't matter. It was more the
Like this is what a university president
would
would
respond.
sound like.
When I saw that, I'm like, okay, here's what's obvious here. Okay, what's going on here is obvious. That is so unnerving and bizarre.
No, that was fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen something like that in my entire life. Imagine the question was, is the call for genocide against all blacks? Does that
He
go
made
against
that video.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even see
He
it.
literally
I was
did
like,
make that.
so
Imagine now. Insert any other word, you would literally be appalled. You'd be
Correct.
like, "What?"
Now look,
It's
if
wild.
these universities had a history of being free speech absolutists, in which this stuff happened, and they had neo-Nazi rallies in past years, there were calls for genocide against African Americans or Asians or homosexuals, and this just was the way Harvard is. Hey, this is just what we allow to see all these ideas. You could make the case that, oh, okay, so this isn't particularly unique. But Harvard ranks last in free speech during the heyday of BLM. You couldn't say a meme that was offensive and not get kicked out or being held from admission. So to see it so obviously, they're making this all of a sudden. It's about nuance and
so
context.
selective.
Only
so
when
crazy.
it comes to the Jews.
Not just that, it's just crazy. I don't even know how to explain it. The question and the answer it was crazy.
And
Never seen something like that.
And then the SNL parody was just. Did you
Yeah.
see that?
That
too?
I didn't see it. You didn't like that?
No, I didn't do it like that. I watched that and I'm like, oh my God. They're trying to like make fun of the
how
person
serious it is.
asking the question. Like she's the one
Right.
to goof on.
Yes, I didn't see it, but classic. They're all full of shit.
Yeah, this was really, we could talk about
Well,
that
it's funny
later.
because SNL also got into hot water like 2 episodes ago. Timothy Chalamet was Tisha, as I call him. He was hosting, and they had a bit where he named his band Hamas, and they're like, Hamas? That's the worst name. And people are like upset. They're like, why are you ripping on Hamas? Why are you ripping on Hamas? So they're like, you can't
So they
win.
did a-
but
they did a
like,
parody of that?
so maybe they're like, they took that backlash and they're like, oh, constructive criticism. Our base seems to not enjoy when we make fun of Hamas. So I guess we could just rip on people who are wondering if genocide is okay for Jews.
Thing to think that's
I don't
happening
care
in like
what-
the SNL boardroom.
I don't care what they rip on. First, funny wins. Like and
Funny
and,
doesn't.
and
SNL's
funny
been
has
funny in decades though.
yeah,
Right,
and
so they
funny
lose,
has
like-
to be somewhat has to have a resonant
SNL has
truth.
moments.
Has to have a resonant truth to it. I saw one today that was really good. The writing jokes for each other in front of that civil rights activist.
I didn't say that.
There was a clip going around. You know where Michael
Oh, the weekend
Oh,
update.
yeah,
when
the
they-
Weekend
when they
Update.
when they write each other's
they
jokes.
write each other's
Yeah.
jokes. So they did it, and they had like an African American civil rights activist like
Present.
sitting there. She's like, joining us today is poet, author, and civil rights activist. I forget her name. Sitting there as he reads these horrible racist jokes, and she's like, and he's like, she's an activist, dude. What are you doing? That was funny.
No, they have
their moments, but few and far between.
Everything Please Don't Destroy Us is good.
I want to.
Yeah, they're good.
I want to scroll back a little bit. You mentioned in the beginning that you played the Elon Gold, the like yeshiva guy.
Yeah, you just
impersonation.
put out a video with
Sketches,
him.
Jay
Can
sketch.
we just go back? How did you grow up? Because I don't think we even discussed 1 second of like.
Yeah, modern.
We need to know how many siblings you have.
Yeah.
Jewish geography.
Just 2. Modern Orthodox. 2
Where?
professional working parents. Englewood, New Jersey.
So you grew up non-Jewish.
It was chill.
Time out.
We ripped toilet paper, you know.
Damn, I heard that the rush I felt the first time I ripped toilet paper on Shabbat.
We were stricter than most, actually, but you know, there's a lot of dairy, whatever you want, you know.
Is that a Sebastian?
Lot of dairy.
impersonation?
There's a lot of dairy. People eat out pastas and cheese. Whatever you want, I got it. Yeah,
that's good.
There's some lights flickering on Shabbos behind the scenes, you know, stuff
Say
like
whatever.
that.
What is that, by the way?
It's too hot. You're saying
Private and public. Public
No.
institutions.
Why the more right wing in Judaism you get,
Yeah.
the more into meat, and the more left wing, the more into dairy. What is that?
And the better the AC.
What does that mean?
No, he means like why do they eat?
Why are they
like,
into-
like you'll like modern people will have a dairy meal on Shabbos.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Oh, I didn't understand.
Yeah,
what
that's not modern Orthodox.
What about
though.
voting for Biden makes you enjoy pasta more than
No,
a steak? I just
the-
want to understand.
I think the dairy. You're right about like the more progressive and left wing you get. Modern Orthodox can be right wing or left wing, but most it actually probably leans more. I'd say
Right-wing,
center right.
center
you know,
right,
I would
yeah.
say open Orthodox. I mean, now we're getting into the whole thing, but within the context of modern Orthodox, I hear you. The firmer you get, it's like I only do flesh, I only do meat.
Well, you get to the final bosses.
Maybe
Hasidim,
more-
they've never seen a piece
more
of cheese.
vegetarians, more vegans, maybe, and it's like more accommodating. I don't know. You know,
Dairy accommodating to Jews? No, it's not.
I hear you. I hear you. It's
destroys
a,
us.
you always know that if it's like a more left of center shul, it's going to be
Like,
dairy-
you're expecting that
Kiddush
Kiddush.
Dairy Kiddush is coming.
There is one silver
There's
lining in
something
Dairy
attached
Kiddush.
there. I agree with you.
There's
definitely
ice cream
something-
though at Dairy Kiddush sometimes, and that is a silver lining.
I
That
think
is
I should
silver
go a
lining.
little more yeshivish, a little more man-centric. It's like, well, what is this?
That's what it is.
I'm not
It is.
what's going to steak?
It's a masculine
I only eat
versus
steak. I only eat
feminine.
chol. What is
It's a
it?
masculinity,
What's it? No
yes.
meat? No meat? What do you?
I think it's a Gvir culture also.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
no
Yes,
rich
it's
there.
meat.
Yeah.
It's class. Meat. It's
Yeah.
gotta eat. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like meat.
Yeah.
I hear that.
But yeah, I grew up modern Orthodox, and like modern Orthodox, I guess encompasses Jersey suburbs of There's Teaneck, which is like observant modern Orthodox, and Englewood, which in my day is observant but slightly more flexible, depending on places in New York City that are modern.
Why do I feel like New Jersey's the last place left for modern? That's like where all they live.
You could say New York City
Where
too.
they all live.
Upper West Side.
Upper West Side,
Listen,
Upper
come
East
on.
Side.
Upper East
Talks
Side.
about them like they're a zoo. Like we're gonna
Upper West Side.
big Culinary trip to Teaneck to look at.
But again, on like the
flat yarmulkes.
institutional front, it's all the same. It's like observant, yeshiva day school, modern Orthodox life, and then depending on the community you're in, the different flavors of how strict people are on.
Did you
certain
grow up
things.
with with American culture, like with TV?
Sure.
So you grew up on comedy. You
What's
grew up
that?
on music
Oh,
and
yeah,
comedy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember was that we were.
capital M modern Orthodox. We ate movies.
I mean, we were.
You guys ate movies out.
What's that?
You guys ate movies out.
We ate movies out. Movies, TV, everything modern. Yeah.
We were playing in that.
Why use the frommest people go? I'd say. Why say the really?
Why use the rightist?
Far right.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay. He's not going to Columbia anymore. He got a little more religious. He's going.
What
to
happened where did you go for college?
Berkeley College of Music. That was unusual.
Flex on him.
That was unusual for my community. Yeah, I was one of the only ones.
How did a Jewish kid from a
What did your parents do?
My father was a lawyer and he's retired, but tax law, and my mother's a doctor.
Yeah, okay. So that brings me to my question.
Yes.
How does a modern Orthodox Jew convince his parents, yeah, I'm going to Berkeley College of Music, especially two professionals like that? That was a fight. Tell me that wasn't a fight.
Not a fight, no, because I think they were always supportive of my I think at an early age I had inclinations to be creative and entertaining and do impressions, and they were just, I think their temperament was just they were always kind of into it. They were like having me stand on the table and entertain their friends as a young kid, doing impressions of their friends. You were that kid. So I was that kid.
Did you put on plays for the family?
Shtick, yeah, totally, yeah. I would do all that kind of stuff. My dad's a funny guy, My dad is not like a stiff guy, so he wasn't. He's practical. He's like, when you go to Berkeley, you take some music business classes, keep your eye on the ball, which is a big ball of cash, keep your eye on it, try to be practical. But they were always very, very emotionally, very encouraging and supportive of me kind of going all the way with it. And when I went to study music professionally, and, they had a private teacher teaching me through high school. And that's the thing. It is overall, there's a lot of pressure to conform to certain things in our world, but every once in a while, certain parents, they appreciated the entertainment value and all of that and the creative endeavor. So they were very supportive.
Supportive Jewish parents.
Yeah. Which is unusual. The general community, there were no resources or people to model after. There was still you still feel the pressure of everyone has this caricature idea of show business. Oh, I hear it's a very tough business, but no one's in it.
Right.
I'm like, I guess
everything's I heard it's a tough business.
Yeah, no.
How are you gonna get married?
How are you gonna do that? I don't know. But nobody's speaking from experience. But at the same time, a religious Jewish life is very expensive and hard to do. It takes a long time to build up over time. And
you didn't go after comedy. You went for music.
Music first, yeah.
Guitar? What were you?
I'm a bassist and vocalist, and I studied, a little bit of film scoring, music for film and TV. And my first sort of at-bat in the game out of school was writing and demoing for commercials and making music for advertising.
Were you the only Orthodox Jew in Berkeley?
Maybe one of two. There's Israelis and a few other people, but in Berkeley it's very lonely. Yeah,
it's being Orthodox Jew, and you were Orthodox the whole time. I mean, I'm not trying to go blast if you were. But.
No.
It's in Boston. Though,
I never had a nice naughty phase.
So Zach is the type of person he'd be putting you on blast right now if he found out you weren't religious at a point.
Weren't.
Yeah. After you right now.
No, I didn't get to. I didn't have my what's it? Rumspringer. I didn't have my Rumspringer. No, I ate at the BU Hillel for kosher food. And that was where most of my social life was at BU, because that's where the Orthodox kids were. So that's where I was able to hang. I met my wife there. I mean, we knew each other before a little bit, but that was my social life. And Berkeley was just sort of professional. I'm here, classes, that kind of thing. But it's lonely because music, socially speaking, you want to be playing with other people. And that was hard to do when I was probably the least musically productive as a student at Berkeley.
Why? Just a lot of the gigs were on Saturday?
And just the social dynamics of meeting people and jamming and doing all that stuff. If you're eating, at the BU meal at the BU Hillel house, hanging there on the weekends, you're just not going to organically meet the people you want to meet on the music side.
Yeah.
So and you have class and you're just doing it. So it was that was a hard time for me as an artist and a creative, because I was I don't feel very creative here. I'm just doing my stuff.
And you were there the whole way through?
Yeah, 4 years. I mean, they have they have a proper program where you can get a degree. You have to get a degree. That was the thing. You have to come out with a degree. That's the pressure a little bit of you could take classes there if you want. But so I was there for the full ride of 4 years. And then the thing is also in any school that's about creative stuff, it gets very frustrating, because the way to do it is to do it, not to learn about doing
100%.
it. Imagine a college with a podcast major. It's what?
I would say
you want to learn how to do a podcast?
I'd argue, by the way, that's about most things in life.
Yeah.
So then,
I think in any major, college is epically a waste of time in a lot of ways.
So what's the case to go to school then for a creative venture? What is the case?
What's the case to go to school? A couple things. The network that you build of people. Being post Berkeley, some of the most important steps you take when you first start in any creative endeavor is those early days when you don't know anybody or anything, and you have to.
You needed a network though. You're a Jew.
In the music business?
No, we run that.
every person in the
we don't.
I've ever told anybody's asked me what I do. I'm I'm a comedian. They're no, I mean full time.
Yeah.
What's your job?
Oh, in the beginning of those early days, it was wait a minute, I don't understand what cover band? What do you do? It's Jewish music. No. What do you mean? What? There's a lot of that.
People thought you were playing bar mitzvahs and Up Sharons.
Music. Well, I'd go to these meals in the early days, graduating, and everyone's kind of figuring out, talking shop about what they're doing, mergers and acquisitions and all the stuff that I'm profoundly not interested in and don't know about. But they're so what do you do? Oh, I was trying a little voiceover work too. It was I'm doing some music and some voiceovers.
No follow-up questions.
Huh. Okay. Well, what is that? Like you sing at weddings? Like does not compute. Does not compute. Because that's the. But
Amazing.
But yeah, I think having a network that you come from, the Berkeley like alumni community was helpful in the early days of just like people who graduated a few years before you and are doing stuff. Like you reach out to them, they take you on a tour of Hans Zimmer's studio in LA, and you start meeting other composers. Because I was doing composing for advertising in the beginning. But also fundamentals. There are things you learn at school. Like you learn some certain skills that I do have today that are very useful.
We'll talk for a second. So how did you support yourself coming out of this? When did you get married? Then.
Yeah, I was 23, right out of college, like summer after college.
Great. So how did you support yourself from
in the
there
beginning?
till,
Thank God. Yeah, I told you, like my parents were helpful in like my early days as an intern. Just like I wasn't paid. I was like it was like my grad school year.
Where were you interning?
I went to like a music house, like a music production house that that specialized in music for advertising. So
And you were like getting coffee, or you're like mixing tracks?
Oh, I was doing both. In the beginning, you're repairing cables, you're doing everything that an intern does. But the benefit was I got to kind of watch real composers
real stuff.
write for advertising. And then I got to demo on commercials. And the initial demo was like, write music. Hey, Ami, here's a 30-second commercial. It has no music in it. Like, make it happen.
Have you done any ads that we might know?
Oh, yeah. Do you watch commercials anymore? I haven't seen a commercial in a long time.
I happen to think music
the
for
ones that pop
commercials.
up
But
on
after a
YouTube.
few months, I started getting to a good groove, and I ended up winning their biggest commercial the company had ever had. For like a San Diego tourism campaign. I wrote like a 30-second song, turned it into a full-length song, and got that licensed.
When you say a song, you mean like it's the mattress
jingle.
professionals?
Yeah, like a
those
jingle.
are by far. I mean, the fact that
Not even a jingle. This was like what's very big in the commercial world and has been for a long time is sync licensing. Like you write a song that gets used. It sounds like a real song, but it's like used as the vibe of the as the commercial.
I mean, that's what like Charlie.
It wasn't like
7 cars for kids.
So you have jingles.
I heard a few people
Yeah.
actually ended their life with that song.
right. So
By just driving their car off the Tappan Zee Bridge.
doing
Like a sharp right.
suicide songs were very popular, like early 2000s.
yeah,
People were really looking for
2000s.
that.
Evanescence.
Like, so we're looking for someone to end their life to our product. We want them on our mattress when they're dead.
I've been saying for years though, like
Yeah.
they're like the Grammys there needs to start being music awards for jingles, dude. Whoever came up with like 1-800-288-2300 Empire. That's a banger.
They have like
that's a
award.
banger.
They have
The
award shows.
PC
themselves.
Richardson.
Yes.
That one from the Yankee game.
Called
We-
J.G. Wentworth. Why are these people not winning Grammys?
My top 3 right now. Go.
Like
I think J.G. Wentworth has got to be up there. I mean, that's my pick for.
called J.G.
Oh,
Wentworth.
You know those
I don't know
old,
the
the old Guinness commercials, Real Men of Genius?
Real
How's the song?
man
Oh, those are
of
amazing.
G- those
I don't
are
know.
really-
Real man.
I watched the Yankee game.
genius.
When you listen to the Yankee game as
Yeah.
a kid, they had those.
So
Those
what's
are
your
my
pick?
favorite.
What's your pick? What's your all-time?
Cars for
favorite?
Kids, honestly. I mean,
Cars for Kids is
especially
crazy.
Ura, because Ura.
Cars for Kids is dope, y'all.
Also, Ura, no one even knows. No one even knows.
Yo, I heard Kanye worked on that actually before the whole anti.
No one even knows what Ura does. That's the
Cars
greatest
and they
part.
won't let me see my kids.
Hey. What's your favorite jingle all time?
One that you wrote, probably.
One of the ones that I wrote.
No,
about.
no.
No,
What
you know
is the great jingle of all time?
Who's your favorite
There's some
comedian?
really great ones. There's some great jingles, but now I can't think of it. I'm drawing a blank. Every time I get asked my favorite of something,
Right,
that's when
I
I
know,
can
it's
never
hard.
ever do it. It's too limiting.
Who's your favorite comedian?
Again, there's so many.
Can't nail something.
Who's a comedian you like now? That recently they've been
Besides
showing
me.
up on your page. and
I
you're
love
like, oh,
I love a guy like I love Jamie Foxx. Guys who are
Jamie.
Yeah, what
that
the
was
actual-
left field answer.
no,
bro.
because he's a polymath, musician, comedian, stand-up, acting, all this stuff.
He's also a big impersonator.
You're
So
saying
He does impressions.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
you've ever seen early stand-up stuff, like
So he's just wildly talented.
I'll be honest, I
And
didn't
I-
know Jamie did stand up.
Early days, he
had no
came up as
idea.
a stand-up. He
no
came
idea.
up on the Jamie Foxx show. His first big show was the Jamie Foxx show, but all those sitcoms were
may have
based
been
on
before my time.
were based on stand-ups. Yeah, you know him as an actor.
I know him as only
I
an
love
actor
both.
who
And a
can do
singer.
impressions. I did not know he was a stand
Oh
up.
no, yeah. Early days stand-up. Jim Carrey has his stand-up early days is amazing because
Jim I know,
I love
Jim
his
I know.
bombastic craziness, and then all the guys you
Yeah,
can
you
think
have
of.
some
I
of the
love
Jim
Bill
Carrey
Burr.
energy.
I love Louis C.K., Patrice O'Neill. I mean, there's no favorites. There's just like
Maybe
everybody.
you take a little bit from each.
Yeah, and I really appreciate polymath comedians who do both music and comedy because that sort of speaks to me.
Bo Burnham guy?
Bo Burnham and Reggie Watts. Bo Burnham is a little dark for me in terms of his
He's
whole
existential.
his angle is very dark,
Yeah.
but like what he puts together is truly unique. When I saw Reggie Watts doing performances like just on YouTube, I was like, oh my god. Like that was a changing point for me when I'm like, look what he's doing. You know Reggie Watts at all?
I know exactly what
He
you're
gets
talking
on
about,
stage and just goes, You know, just does whatever he wants.
He's absurdist. Yeah.
So I'm not as weird as that, but I was like, look what he can do. He just improvs on stage for an hour. So that was an inspiring like time for me to realize like,
probably
wow,
like Mark Rebier also.
Yeah, I love Mark Rebier.
Okay,
yeah.
Let me ask you this:
more on the music side.
How did you? So you start? How long were you in music for again now?
Still in music. I mean, music I developed over time. The path was that I was doing music for commercials. I moved out to LA in 2011 and continued working with different music production companies and started getting more steady work, like getting music on commercials. And then I started a band out in LA called Distant Cousins, and we started doing a lot of song licensing. We'd write songs and get them placed in films, TV, trailers.
Like the soundtracks
we need
for, like,
names.
films?
We need names. What films? What films? What trailers?
You know the movie This Is Where I Leave You, which
Yes.
is like a
Yeah,
I
of
do.
course.
Yes,
you know
I
the
do.
final scene of that movie.
With like Jason Bateman.
and he's driving on the highway.
That's the Shiva movie, right?
Yeah. Well, Yo Chopper
I
wrote that
just
book.
watched that.
You just did?
I just-
Did you
like-
hear the last song when he's driving?
No, I didn't make it to the end of the movie,
well,
man.
You know the writer from that book?
That was
Yeah.
you.
That's us.
How does it work? You
from
get
Jew.
paid.
I did not know.
Yeah, Yo Chopper. He went to YU.
Yeah.
hilarious.
Jonathan Tropper.
Jonathan Chopper.
Yeah. We went to the red carpet for that. Met all the peeps. It was
Adam
cool.
Driver, baby.
Yeah. I don't really have a full impression, but just
No,
like,
no.
come on.
And how that happened, like a movie like that.
So when you're in the game of like this, so the music business is also like, you know, we're talking about like subdivisions of all these different things. So in the music business, there's like, there are music supervisors who are responsible for placing music in film, TV commercials. The supervisor,
their whole job is just
their whole
picking.
job is like, I got to find songs for this movie. They work with the
I
director.
just found a dream job. That's my
Yeah.
dream job.
They work with directors. They work with the sometimes at ad agencies, and their job is to find songs. And then there's the artist, the bands on the other side making songs. So they're either networking with supervisors directly, or they're working with like third party licensing companies that rep catalogs for bands and say, hey, there's a request for a certain type of song. Let's pitch this. You know, so we over time like
You develop relationships with those people.
relationships, and then we were working with a company for a while that was placing us on, you know, Macy's commercials and This Is Where I Leave You, a lot of different trailers. We had that same song from This Is Where I Leave You. It was in How to Train Your Dragon 3 trailer, you know.
What?
Yeah, Daddy's Home trailer, all that kind of stuff. So this was like my grind for a very long time.
Wow.
Comedy was this other child that I was kind of neglecting. I was funny with my friends and doing like shul dinners as a favor, like imitating the rabbi, and there wasn't really an avenue or an outlet because it was all pre-social media or pre-TikTok, really. I mean, social media was there, but the only way to make stuff for social media back then, it felt, was high resolution, high production, music videos.
Right.
There wasn't like
Like YouTube
handheld
stuff.
viral sensation.
Right.
Once that came around and TikTok wasn't a household name yet, I started saying, okay, I'm going to take TikTok. This will be my little experiment. I'm just going to like daily, consistently post whatever I want, but it started as some musical stuff, then some comedy, and impressions were easy to do. It was very quick, you know.
Did you not have that like initial, like I know like when I started comedy, let's say a year and a half ago, the initial like vulnerability of just like putting yourself out there, like just like
Not with videos. That didn't bother me so much. I'd been playing on stage as a musician for like,
right. So I'm saying,
a
did you
long
not have
time.
that? You like kind of like bypass that whole thing because you had already done it with music.
Yeah, I mean, stand up is not for the faint of heart. That still stings in the very beginning. That's putting yourself out there. But videos
in
to
the
me,
beginning, middle, yeah.
I think it's a generational thing because people I speak to are a little younger. They're like, yeah, but what if like you get negative comments? I'm like, so what? Who cares? Like,
Right.
it's on your phone. Click. Like, they're not.
It doesn't exist anymore. You turn it
Yeah,
off.
what if nobody watches? Like, I've spoken to people who, like younger than me who are like who are scared to post this. It's not good. It's not this. I'm just like, I don't know, like, whatever. So with impressions too, like even in the very beginning, first couple months, you don't get that much of a reaction because it's just how the algorithm and how that stuff works. But then one day I'm sitting in my car and I tell this like TikTok story and I'm throwing up daily impressions of different people. Gilbert Gottfried one day, okay, yeah, you know, whatever it does. That, you know, I'm just doing who I can do, and
Can I get a little more Gilbert Gottfried?
a little more. Well, I'm the mislabeled podcast. What is this? Oh, okay. So I threw that one up. Different people, Robert Downey Jr. It's like, okay, well, you know, that's not what it's really about. You know, like a little bit, you know, just like kind of experimenting. You know, and sure, whatever. And then one day I was sitting in my car.
I've seen him freestyle for so long before.
It's trippy.
You know, what just going. But you know, apparently a lot of people do the Robert Downey Jr. and I was doing it on my own on TikTok. But whatever, I wasn't the first. Frank Caliendo also does it. It was great.
Caliendo. I like Caliendo.
yeah.
He's my
Oh,
favorite
do
person.
you know? Are you able to do a good Stephen A? Because Caliendo does it. I think it's Stephen A.
So the sports stuff is just completely, out of my wheelhouse because I never really follow so closely.
Right.
He built his career on sports, on like John Madden and Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Charles Barkley.
Caliendo.
Yeah.
Stephen A.
He
Smith.
built
It's
his
funny.
career on
So I have nothing else beyond that. I don't consume it enough.
The
You
cross-section
mostly
of
you
comedy
built
and sports.
your impressions. A lot of them are about like kind of conservative-y, like men like influencers. Like you got the money guy. What's his name?
Gary?
No.
Dave Ramsey?
Dave Ramsey. Yeah.
That was recent. Dave Ramsey's more of a recent one, but
Are these all guys you like you're into these guys?
yeah, so it's not like this intentional thing. So I was gonna say, like, the one TikTok thing that changed everything was I'm just sitting in my car and I threw up like my phone and Gary V came across my feed. I'm like, oh, look at that. Can I do a Gary V? That's interesting. Let me try one. I just threw it up in my car and I was just like, I'm just so sick of 20, 40-year-olds like complaining that they're not killing it, right? If you want to win, move to Louisiana and start a peanut butter brand. Right? Like blueberries. But I put that up and I was like, that was like any other video I had done. Didn't think twice. And then the classic story goes, like, people have experienced this. I was like, looked at my phone, 5K views. I'm like, what? Refreshed 14K, refreshed 20, 50. Yeah. And that was like, whoa. And I had one other video that I'd done kind of well before that, but like this one got to like 500,000 by the next day or by the weekend. And then Barstool Sports shared it on their Instagram to like 7 million followers. And then it didn't like change everything, but it gave me a little bit of an audience. It moved the needle. You could feel the needle kind of move this way. And I'm like, all right, this social media stuff is powerful. Like I realized, I learned like social media is not the commercial, it's the show. It's not like a promo for yourself. And until then, I'd always used it that way. Like, hey, come check this out. Check out this record. Come to our show here. It's like announcing this, announcing that. And I realized, oh, this is where people are coming to watch. And it seems so obvious. But once I started doing that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to squeeze all the juice out of this Gary I can. Because I got some advice from some creators early on who saw the video. They were like, just so you know, like, I have some advice for you if you want it. Like, really lean into this, like the hit song, the Gary V hit song. So I went for that for a while. It took me all the way to VCon. I opened VCon with Gary at the inaugural VCon.
Legit?
Yeah, on stage. Me, him, and another impersonator, Neiman Naz. And we did
I know Neiman Naz.
When was this? Which VCon?
The first one in 2021, I think?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it was 2021.
What is
maybe
VCon?
2022.
I don't know if
It's
VCon
his show.
We interviewed Gary, as you know, and I've never been asked more than any other question I've been asked about this pod is like, what is Gary V like in person? What he's like in person?
Yeah,
he's exact.
I'm just like he's exact same.
Yep.
The dude's Rizz is unreal. No, he can get your pants off. He's so the charisma. It's a cult of personality. Yeah, my pants were off.
I prefer to go deep, not wide. Take them off.
People do not know in the interview my pants are off under the table. Yeah. No, he's really insane. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, he's sometimes more amped up on camera for particular things, but he's what it's funny when you meet like celebrities, sometimes you're like, oh, they just felt different in person. They looked different. They were presented
exactly
different.
the same.
Exactly the same. Yeah. In a good way. It was very much a mensch, very down with the shtick.
Totally.
I wrote this like opening bit for the VCon thing, and we performed it, and then he came out in the end, and like we came out as two impersonators.
Is he like a perfectionist? Like, was he watching over like what you were gonna do, like kind of micromanaging?
No, but he did say, I may steal your flow. Like, I may crash the whole bit. Like, when we came, the whole thing was, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Gary V. And like, first Nemo comes out, and so it's obvious like it's not Gary V. And then he's like, I'm just so like stoked to be the only real authentic Gary V. And then I come out, hold on 1 second, here we go. And then there's two of us. In the very end, the final finale is Gary comes out, and I'm like, Daddy's home.
Have you met celebrities that were very different? Like, I'm trying to imagine when I like meeting like Donald Trump. He's like, "Hey, what's up, man?"
That he was mellow.
What's up, dude?
He's like, "I love immigrants."
What do you listen to?
In person?
Olivia Rodrigo. She's really good.
I'm sure he's exactly the same in person, though. I would imagine he's the same. Like, he
that's
doesn't
not something
turn it
you
off.
could fake. Like,
from what I've heard,
if he is not like that in person, then Donald Trump deserves an Emmy.
Well, I'll tell you
Oscar.
what, folks.
You think he's not? I think totally he's exact same.
I think he's just totally the same. I can't turn it off. Can't turn it off. It's terrific. Love the orange signed by the same color as my hair. It's fantastic.
Who do you think has the best Donald Trump impersonation?
Oh, it's not. It's not a question, Shane Gills.
Oh, you think?
Are you going to disagree?
There's a range of people who do it really well. The cool thing about Donald Trump impressions is sometimes there's an impression of somebody where everyone is close and one person's the best. There's a lot of different impressions of Donald Trump. Some people are more about the hands and the gesture. Well, I'll tell you what, folks. It's
a lot of Jews in here.
A lot of Jews. Total disaster. A friend of mine, Jason Scoop, showed me the lip thing where it was like
the tremor.
Yeah, it's just like. So there's the lips. Matt Friend, who I know is like does it really well. You've seen him around. Matt Friend. He's a dog. I'll tell you, he's a dog. I'll tell you what. But Matt's.
You have a horse wife.
You know who I like a lot? There's this guy.
Shane's great. There's the guy on SNL who does it as well.
I actually I love like Gil is my favorite comedian, but I think it's a unique Trump impersonation. Like it's not like as true to life. He just like it's not so much the cadence, it's the content.
It's the content.
Like he invented the idea of describing something and saying you described it well. That was like Shane Gillis's like big chiddush.
That's what. Well, yeah.
You walk a room and you just say what is in the room.
I love this guy. This guy's great. Austin Nass. I'll give him a shout out.
He does a lot of the you know, a lot of this, a lot of that.
His Tony Robbins impression is off.
Yeah.
I walked into this show. I saw a lot of Jews that no one is a bigger fan of the Jews than me. A lot of kind.
Never would have happened. I said, baby, what are you doing, baby? I told him.
So I was telling Zach.
Never would have happened.
I was telling Zach before the show. I said, regardless of where you stand on like the political spectrum, if you're a stand-up comedian, you want Trump to win re-election. Like you 100%. need the content right now. Like I do not believe there's a
even if you're a social, even if you hate him. You need him. If you're a
well, Trump impressions are funny to Trump detractors and Trump supporters. That's what's fun about it.
Right. Yeah.
People who love Trump love a good Trump. People who hate Trump say, "Oh, what a clown! What an idiot! Look." So they love seeing that. Sometimes they can't even bear to hear it. But the people who can't stand it. But the you know, I've heard like the issue is that Trump is like funny also. So it's hard to find the funny.
He's doing tight fives during these debates.
You know what I'm saying? So, I think like Trey Parker and Matt Stone talked about how actually it's harder with Trump to find the funny because like he himself is entertaining and is a showbiz guy, like comes from show business. But you know what I mean? So like meaning the show is Trump, not the parody.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about like you don't need an impersonation, like the content wise. Like comedy died with Biden. In terms of like political comedy,
just with Trump.
Yeah, but it was also impossible to like. You know, a lot of other things died when Trump was president. I'm not making the case for or against, but when he was president, it was tiresome. It was like the only thing anyone could even talk about, not joke about, but talk about was in relation to him. So it kind of just you know, layers over everything. And I found that, I don't know, like the challenge, the fun challenge of rising to the occasion comedically is to find the funny. And when Trump himself is providing all the entertainment, it sort of sucks the energy out of the room. I'm not saying you can't do it.
But even when he's providing entertainment,
he's
almost a clown.
He's still the butt of the joke. Even when he's being funny.
I think people underestimate. I think he knows more what he's doing than the people who will say he's a clown.
Oh, I agree with you, but that's not the point. But it's still hilarious. I mean, you can still joke about whatever he's...
No, but what he's saying is that the point is like what a stand-up comedian does is takes a regular day situation and brings the joke out, but here it's not hidden. So like the work's done.
What I'm saying is like the entertainment has already happened.
Right, of course.
You're not going like with Obama, you got to kind of find like Obama talking dirty, but Trump already talks dirty. So dirty talk Obama would be great. Oh, look at that ass, fine ass, love that. Huh. Yes, we do. Yes, we can. But Trump already has a funny speech. Yeah. You know, he would say, "Look at that ass, great ass." He would say that. Not the comedian.
And no one's laughing at that. They're like that.
We love ass. I love ass. I'm a boob guy too. Yeah, Ivanka's so hot, so hot. Now that's something that a normal president would never say, and a comedian would say. Well, imagine, love that, great, love my, you know, like jokes about my family, whatever you're gonna say. Like Ivanka, so hot. I would do it. Yes, I would. But Trump actually would.
He actually does it.
Or says that. So you're like, oh man, where do I go from here?
I think
serious Trump is funnier, you know?
Right.
serious, like Trump delivery.
Totally unacceptable language. We need to calm our...
So maybe that's where a lot of it was.
You got to find out how to balance it. You got to zig and zag.
Can you do Trump right now saying like something he would never say? Like say something like a leftist talking point.
Oh, that's funny.
Like Trump.
My name is Donald Trump. I go by they, them. Donald Trump, he, him, please. Don't misgender me. That's disgusting. That's terrible.
We need a bigger government.
You just misgendered me. That's disgusting. Terrible. Get him out. Get him out of here. He called me a he. Don't make assumptions. I have orange hair, but I have other parts. So many parts. Different genders, different days. Very fluid. So fluid. Fluid. So fluid. Free Palestine. Free. We got to free them. It's terrible. It's terrible what Israel's doing. We got to free them from the river to the sea. It's a beautiful sea. I'm going to put some Trump Doral right on the Gaza beach. It's going to be so beautiful. That's
great. Keep going. Do not stop.
You're going to keep going. Stop. What things Trump would never say. Oh, what else? Raise those taxes. These wealthy people, they're out of control. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Trump will never say. I'm trying to think of some other things.
Wait, did you see
resistance by any means necessary, folks?
This is his actual official statement that he gave the Spectator on
Joe Biden, great president.
On October 7th. Just in, Donald Trump says, there's no... can you do it in the voice? Do it in the voice.
What's this?
This is his actual statement after October 7th.
Donald Trump says, oh boy, here we go. Let's get in trouble here. There's no hatred like the Palestinian hatred of Israel and the Jewish people. And probably the other way around also, I don't know.
Keep going.
Before adding, okay. And probably the other way around also. Sometimes you have to let things play out and you have to see where it ends.
It's an official statement.
He almost had me, and then you're like, oh, God, there you go. There you go. It went rogue.
It's the greatest non-statement of all time.
The Holocaust never happened.
Oh, maybe it did. I don't know.
Things Trump would never say.
Anyways, yeah.
Hillary Clinton's so hot, so beautiful. Things Trump would never say.
I think that's things no one would ever say. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'll resent
One
that.
thing's
This
for
might be a new character.
This guy, he has.
That is very good. I might use that
I want
on
Trump
stage.
just to win. Forget about it. I mean, I want to win for
You
a lot
also
of
want him
reasons.
to win. Come on.
No, I do. But I'm saying for a lot of. But I'm saying I actually.
Laibel Weiner wants it. Is it Trump or who would have
No.
thought?
Wow.
The real reason.
That's
Well,
a shock.
honestly, if there was a more normal candidate, then I would be fine with someone else winning.
You love Trump.
He would vote for himself.
No,
before
Laibel
Trump,
has been
but that's
critical
it.
of Trump in the past.
A little bit, but come on.
No, again, against Biden and against the super like I would rather.
He's too much fun.
I'd rather a conservative Democrat.
Look,
than
he'd rather him than
Trump.
a lizard Jew.
Anyways,
A globalist.
correct. He's entertainment. He's reality TV every single day. What do you mean? For 7 straight years,
Yeah.
I was hooked.
Right.
That was
What turned you? What were your moments where you were like, oh, come on? Where were your red lines there?
I mean, January 6th for sure. That whole saga, like after he lost the election and things, I was just like at a certain point, like he took it to the courts, or whatever. I was like, again, it's a double-edged sword. I'll tell you why. Trump wins because he has a policy of never ever giving up, and he could have. If he didn't have that policy, he would have been out long before when it was grab her by the whatever. It would have been out. He would have given up a million times.
What? No, I'm just kidding.
He would have given up a million times prior to every. He would
That's something I would say.
Yeah. He never would have made it to the presidency to begin with. So it's kind of like hard to like fight both of those things.
Well,
Now,
where all the Trump critics get it wrong is that they criticize him from the perspective of he's so not presidential. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why people find appealing about him. He's a junkyard dog. So you can't reinforce this idea that what's wrong with him is what people find appealing about him.
You're saying they wouldn't like
There
him.
are other reasons to criticize him. And I think, yes, you're right. I think it was like not attending the inauguration of Biden.
petty.
There are certain basic fundamental principles
petty.
that are very important to the country.
Yeah.
And like you gotta,
I just think he has no ideology. I think he's like so transparently
Winning. Yeah.
right. He's
Yeah.
so transparently like okay, for example, that this Argentinian guy who's like insane, Javier Milei.
Love
By the
this
way, you
dude.
got to be working on that. That's got to be coming up in the chamber.
He's gonna
be a Jew.
He's amazing. Yeah.
So people are calling him like Argentina's Trump, but he's like a tried and true libertarian.
Yes.
And with a staunch ideology, and he was a professor of economics. Trump has no ideology. Correct. He's clearly just like, yeah, whatever's gonna get him in power. Like whatever.
I would say that, like, when I talk to people who like can't understand it, it's like, imagine the record as president is one thing. You're right, he doesn't really have an ideology, but for conservatives, I think it was like, hey, once he had a presidential record, people like Ben Shapiro were like, I can vote for him again because I've seen how how Trump implementation goes. Like it runs pretty conservative.
Wasn't Shapiro a never Trumper
in the beginning? Oh, he called him a steaming pile of human garbage.
Did he?
Yeah, steaming pile of human garbage. Absolutely, absolute trash. Like the idea that. I don't do that much Shapiro, but yeah, in the beginning, totally, and I kind of get it. You're right. Like also free trade. His stuff on trade is not typically, a traditional conservative, position. But
I happen to think, by the way, if he laid off on January 6th, I think his position, I think his odds of winning this, there's right now, by the way, he's
the points.
favorite to win. Not that I give a damn about polls because after that, they were wrong about him to begin with. But just the idea is, I think if January 6th, I still think you could, like, in a certain way, reasonably say, like, something like,
yeah,
you may not like him, but
Trump's worst moments are when you like need the symbolic president to just be that person,
a normal guy for 5 minutes.
You can argue about policy all day and temperament, but when you actually need a person to be like stable and turn it off, he wasn't really.
Excuse me, he's a very stable genius. He has made that very clear.
When COVID happened, that in the very, very beginning of COVID. I'm trying to say every buzzword to get us flagged. But in the very beginning, when everyone was legitimately scared, everybody in like March of 2020 was like, okay, what's going on? You know, before we all started disagreeing about stuff, and it all went to.
Before it became nothing about COVID. That point.
Well, before we're like, okay, no one's dying. Like post the initial thing, no kids are dying. Right. No, like when, put your thinking caps on.
Grandma died already.
Not no one's dying of COVID, but you know what I mean. Like it wasn't when the percentages came out.
We're on the same
but before that, everyone was worried, and Trump got up and said, "We're building a website. It's better than other websites." I was like, no. Trying to diss like Obama's healthcare website. It's like you want like a unifier in chief in that moment. Crisis. You need a guy to settle everyone's nerves and speak about what they're going to do. And he kind of couldn't turn off.
He would turn someone sending a nuke into U.S. soil as like I told you Obama sucks. Like
fireworks. Here we go.
He does not know how to unify. He only knows how to win points.
And it was the same thing in post October 7th. I was like, this is the easiest softball in the world. The first clips of Trump were like, I told baby, I said, what are you doing, baby? Never would have happened if I was president. I'm like, yo, it's like 2 days after this thing. Like, be a human.
So, I mean, yes and no, because I don't agree with that fully, because he said the same thing about Ukraine. So I wouldn't.
What? He said that never would have happened if I was president, kind of thing?
And he's probably right, by the way, on both accounts, in my opinion, honestly, because both are probably true.
Yes, but one could argue that what happened again though, one could just argue, and I'm not trying to I guess I am comparing what happened in Israel, in a sense, the U.S.-Israel relationship has gone historically much deeper, and there's much more connective tissue, in a sense of and it was much more visibly brutal and barbaric than what happened in Ukraine initially. Was this
gradual?
No, not gradual. You can condemn it. Oh my God, a foreign country invaded a foreign country, but it was more in the form of news. We were watching it in terms of the traditional news
as bypassers.
Yeah, oh my God, what happened? Russia invaded Ukraine. That's crazy. But it just wasn't as front and center and visceral.
Bystanders.
Sorry. No, October 7th. As an event, I think is almost uniquely savage and barbaric in what we could see in front of with our very eyes.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah. So for
I don't see why saying that statement is the craziest. I mean, some people
disagree. So for Trump, who has Jewish grandchildren and a lot of people who are and the U.S.-Israel relationship just has a specific unique close list, you would expect him to be a little more restrained.
Let me push back for a second though, because he did not come out nearly strong enough against Charleston, the neo-Nazis who were marching.
Yeah, I'll push back on that.
Yeah, that was a bullshit. That entire thing is a bunch of bullshit.
He did. He said, "Fine people," and says, "I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists. They should be condemned totally." Right. If you just watch the clip, that's what happened.
There's nothing wrong with that statement.
And CNN went clip.
Exactly.
You know what? I know when I never saw the full thing. I saw the CNN clip.
You know why? Because they didn't want you to. It's the most famous bunch of BS of all time.
That whole BS, and the whole thing was everyone was like, anti-Semitism on the rise, anti-Semitism on the rise, and I'm the last person to disagree with that now. But it's not the tiki torch Charleston people I was so worried about post October 7th. It was Harvard, the universities across the UK. It was this stuff. And now, and I will say then, pushing back on myself on that, then I started to see this rise of anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, far-right stuff. Oh, they control our foreign policy. These Jews, they're powerful.
That existed for a very long time.
What's that?
The far-right stuff existed for a long time. I think what happened... Wait, let me finish. What happened on October 7th was that even more lefty-leaning Jews, such as myself and such as millions of Jews in America, started to feel a little bit abandoned by the left, because the far right, that has been a well-documented thing. There have been pockets, Daily Stormer, pockets of 4chan Fuentes for ages and ages. Rumble TV is filled with people that have thought that Jews were controlling American politics and all this, El design and stuff. October 7th was now we're seeing on the left the people that were supposed to be so anti.
Here's the difference of
why to say that I'm surprised at the far right what happened after.
No, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that that's there, but it was always much more fringe and much more marginal,
more fringe,
and not ascendant in the culture. What we're seeing in the anti-Semitic left are the bastions of liberalism and intelligentsia, media, corporate America. It's everywhere, and it's these people who are standing in solidarity with people who have genocidal intentions towards Jews in the parts of the culture that are not underground white supremacist corners.
That's the difference, by the way.
I'm this is much more terrifying.
It's interesting to say that, though, because, yes, there have been people in the media who have been clearly, we've all seen all the clips, same clips, but the U.S. government is still sending billions of dollars to Israel. So it's the establishment is still backing Israel.
Yeah, at the governmental level, sure. At the cultural level, the left and where you see it in media, it's the same stuff as the intersectional group identity ideas of the woke that have sort of poisoned this idea of looking at everybody in terms of like race being much more front and center as paramount, as the most important identifier in people. I've seen it much more there, and it's on Disney Plus. There's no white supremacist sympathizing Disney Plus cartoons for kids, but there's plenty of the worst ideas of the left all over.
But are the worst ideas of the left as bad as the worst ideas of the right?
I think so, sure.
Okay, that's a strong statement. That's a strong
statement. I think the worst ideas of the left
I think there are bad ideas
reducing people to groups that can be slaughtered if we do deem them oppressors.
So that's just that. But
that's how Israel is being justified. That's how October 7th is justified on the left. Colonizers. This is a resistance. The worst crimes against humanity in the 20th century in the Soviet Union came from this idea of, grouping people into these groups where they're just numbers and we can destroy them because we have deemed them villains by nature of their group identity.
You're saying that both the far left and the far right, you were finding people that they're doing the age-old trick of turning Jews into a problem and therefore deserving of...
They're doing it all for different reasons. They all agree, though, that they're a problem. I mean, the radical right is doing it because Jews are non-whites who are...
they think
who are liberals coming into our country and making immigrants come in and enforcing liberal policies.
We're
and
making
doing all
the frogs gay.
That's the far. Hey, making the frogs gay. Can
you do Alex Jones?
Of course I can do Alex Jones. What are you talking about? What? He just triggered my. Oh my God! On the far right it exists, but I don't know. He's actually been pretty good on this role recently, very recently. But anyway, but on the far left they're saying Jews are white colonizer oppressors, and we can destroy their men, women, and children in the name of resistance by any means necessary.
Is that not though a tiny faction? A tiny faction of the left.
No. Hell no.
Not at all.
Look at the streets of the UK, and then there's the Islamist anti-Semitism, which is
no, that's a different thing.
All.
That's a different
But they
thing.
all agree. Get rid of the Jews.
You understand the president of MIT, I mean, do you not see that? Those are the presidents of the 3 most prestigious colleges arguably in the world.
And I'm not saying which idea is worse or not. I'm saying which idea is resonant and accepted and tolerated.
Accepted.
You can get on Twitter tomorrow and say, kill all white people.
Right.
And they're like, cool. You can say that on Twitter.
Well, I think for me, what's been the scary thing...
And that's an idea of the woke left.
I think that's a good point. But I think what's so fascinating / extremely terrifying is what you said would have been true is still true to a certain extent, which is that the far left Jew hating is the one that like gets like more cultural purchase. It's more like you can have it on SNL, right? And the far right stuff was always for years and years and years in America, mostly divorced guys in their trucks, going on making live streams to 4chan. And now Twitter is such a fucking cesspit of like just the wildest stuff I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's these accounts do not have 30,000 followers. They have 300,000 followers.
Yeah, I think that's like the Kanye effect because Ironically, Kanye, when Kanye said all that stuff, I think for watching him, it seemed like it came from a place of mental illness and breakdown, and a lot of it was incoherent craziness.
It came from a place of genius. Okay, he's a genius.
Interesting. A stable genius. But what it allowed, what was disturbing about it was how many people were like, Kanye's speaking truth here.
I mean, Kanye has
the Overton window of what you can say about Jews and get away with it. He's going to drop an album and they'll be like, you know what? Like hate against Jews is not the best thing.
It's the Michael Jackson effect writ large.
But
which
we
is
can
what?
take
he
it.
Definitely touched those kids, but god damn, it slaps. And this is just
not
writ
just
large.
but the people, not just because people like the music and they're willing to forgive it. They're just willing to forgive anti-Semitism. It's just we can say these things, and I think it's because people perceive Jews as powerful, impactful, influential, and therefore we can say what we want. Specifically,
to be fair,
Jews.
when it comes to Kanye, at the very least, they were also very willing to. He was also saying anti-black stuff for a long time. So like there is like a rising. I think that I follow a lot of like intelligent blogger type people who are all saying the same thing. There is such a wave of anti-wokeness that is about to hit because people are so sick and tired of being told not to do, which is that is a good thing. Like we have swung too much into censorship, but what is coming is going to be you become a hero for saying things like Kanye. So he didn't get blasted for saying crazy anti-black stuff. Slavery was not
that's
real.
That's because he's black. If he was a white dude saying that, gone in a second.
Anyways, hold on a second. I saw you, by the way, respect to you. I know how hard it is to get big guests.
Yeah.
You've gotten some very respectable guests.
Some gets.
Professor Galloway.
And not that I'm someone that needs anyone's approval, but I'm quite impressed, I gotta say.
He needs people's approval.
So let's say, what was that? Candace, what's she like? First of all, did you speak to her? Was it in person?
No, that was a virtual. I mean, it was like, how they do it, Skype.
Oh, well, what's she like pre-pod? Was she just like shooting the shit? Like, how are your kids?
Yeah, look, Candace and I had, it's funny, like after that conversation, I think people very much framed it as like, a debate that I wanted me to take the win. And it wasn't set up that way. I'd say to her credit, the way it happened was because she was a fan of the comedy stuff. She had reviewed some Prince Harry videos I had done like a year before. And so like we had like DM exchange. I'm going to share this on my thing. And she like did a review of Prince Harry stuff. But I had been critical of her also online in the Kanye thing where for the same exact reason that we ended up having the conversation. My initial issue with Candace was, being so against quote cancel culture. And it's perfectly valid to call out when you see cries of fake racism where it doesn't exist. But that doesn't mean when you see racism or anti-Semitism where it does exist, you ignore it or pretend it's not there. Or try to say, well, Kanye said DEFCON 3 Jews. What did he mean by that? And I think she was confusing personal friendships with him and just a lens by which to view the world as I never cancel anybody and censorship is always bad. It's like, well, look. Censorship is bad and cancel culture is bad insofar as people are joking around.
Like freedom of speech concept.
Yes, and insofar as we're taking people of good faith as to what they're saying as not really racist and looking for fake racism. But real racism is bad. We're allowed to say that. That's not. And I think to try to signal to sort of the conservative tribe, people get caught up in their confirmation bias and their audience capture, where you're like, I can't say that because lest I sound like a liberal.
Right.
And it's like that's ridiculous.
What did she say to that?
So in the context of our recent conversation, she was talking about Israel stuff, and we saw certain tweets about, genocide is wrong no matter what government does it. And in the context of Israel, that seemed like a very odd, bizarre tweet. And then the final straw for me was that she retweeted the Queen of Jordan's video.
Yes.
Saying Jewish people are weaponizing anti-Semitism to silence people into compliance. And she wrote full on, I completely agree with that, with the Queen of Jordan, that Jewish people are silence people into compliance. And I wrote back something like a very firm tweet and thorough tweet like, the only weaponization happening here is actual weapons pointed at Jews. And I kind of pointed out this double standard of like, when you criticize people and people like respond to you, you're perfectly able to defend yourself in being critical of something or calling something out. But when we do it as Jews and calling something out, like you're saying, we're weaponizing. I mean, you see how that's the same exact. You're not even holding to your own principle here. We're calling it out. And then in the response to that, she DM'd me saying, let's talk. And she invited me on like within a half hour, a couple hours later. Okay, I was on the show and we were talking. And it was like a conversation, and I think what was revealed to me was that she wasn't close to this issue as she admitted. And therefore didn't know a lot about it. So I think a lot of her statements, maybe she wasn't aware to
What was
the
the
extent.
statement where she literally said that the fact that there's 4 quarters, there's only the Muslim? What?
In our conversation.
That was your conversation?
In our conversation.
That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
But
Why are you saying stupid?
100%. But people are allowed to not, like everyone has.
Not when you have 4 million followers and you're making
that's
statements
the
like
issue.
that. No.
So
you're not allowed to not know.
Everyone's allowed to not know things, and that's perfectly okay. But yes, then you shouldn't try to speak with authority about very delicate subjects.
And then she go publicly and on her tweet and go say something else or
no, but everyone forgets. Like if you watch the whole conversation, it did reveal in that moment that she had a misunderstanding. And at the end of that segment, she said, okay, maybe I misunderstood that.
Well, that's great. That's very impressive.
So I'm just saying that's the real victory in a conversation, not look what you didn't know about something.
Of course.
And I think what really...
Obviously, I'm not here...
Yeah, and I just think what was really effective, I think, in the conversation, one was keeping it civil, but also most of my like counterpoints to her questions were from conservative premises, not... She was trying to I think at some points assume maybe that I was coming at this. I think she had a misunderstanding of current calling out of anti-Semitism and current defense of Israel as if it's the same as maybe when the ADL would do it.
Right.
And that was sort of a left-wing tactic to shut people down. Now, at the onset of the conversation, I said, I'll tell you what you want. It has been the case that at times, the Jewish community and and organizations like the ADL have called out anti-Semitism or thrown that label around too loosely where it doesn't exist. That doesn't mean where it does exist so obviously, we don't call it out. It's like 2 wrongs don't make a right.
I'm not saying the whole point of the conversation, just to clarify before, was to say I got you or anything that. I'm just saying that
it did.
The point of the conversation is that if it came out like you're saying, like that she said, clearly I don't know that much about this. You have a huge responsibility, obviously, when you have 4 million followers. Yeah. If you're as honest as she purports herself, so to speak, to be, and I'm not even anti-Candace, by the way. I'm just saying she was saying things that are basic things that she didn't know. Yeah. So if you're gonna go see that and then have a conversation and it comes out you're wrong, you gotta at least go back, either delete the tweet, go back on Twitter and
She
say I was
didn't
wrong.
tweet that. She just said it to me in the conversation about the 4 quarters and stuff like that. That's not something she has put out as a statement.
I'm saying she clearly said, and it's obvious from your conversation that she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about on a very primitive level. So if that's the case, then it behooves you as an honest person to go back to your Twitter, either delete the tweet or go back on and say, I actually don't know what the flying fuck I'm talking about because I thought...
Yeah, that'd be asking a lot of someone to do that in that exact way. Hey, everybody. I mean, people change their minds gradually and incrementally
No, that's not
over
changing
time.
your mind. Hold on. That's not changing your mind. She didn't
Right, that's
know
facts
the most
that you didn't know
fundamental thing about the Jewish quarter and the Muslim.
No, if she had tweeted, the Muslims are only allowed to live in the Muslim quarter in the Old City, isn't that crazy? You'd be right. But there wasn't anything that precise, I don't think. I think it was the evolution of things. And I think there was a moment in the conversation when she said, like, I was just talking about genocide because genocide is just wrong no matter what government it is. And I just sort of asked her, like, did you really not realize, like, the slander of the word genocide thrown at Israel? And, you know, when you take people in good faith, she said, like, oh, I was just responding to this thing, to this, genocidal language I was hearing by
Yeah, but
senator.
she was lying about
Yeah,
that.
she's full of shit.
Like,
She's full of
she
shit.
absolutely knew
I
what
don't
was
like. I
going
used to
on.
like Candace. I realized more and more. First of all, I realized more and more. What did you think about?
It's hard to say. In the conversation itself, I will say in real time, I was like, you know, if somebody isn't really engaged with the issue and doesn't really follow that closely, and they're watching from an outsider's
I
perspective.
had no idea what the word genocide. If you Google genocide,
No, she knows what the word means.
No, I understand, but that doesn't understand the context in which it was being thrown around in
Or that
that particular.
I think the conversation, if anything, revealed an insensitivity and a real lack of awareness of Jewish history of persecution.
Forget persecution. Why do you
and the Israel conflict in general as it currently stands, a real lack of awareness of a lot of it. And even when she said, like, well, Jews are doing well, when I sort of said, like, you know, we have to call it out when we see it because, you know,
Right,
Germany.
that's such a
and I
bullshit
made a
thing to
thing
say.
about Germany, but we moved past that pretty quickly. But it just revealed to me, like, a certain... Look, if someone's like showing you a
the
mirror
Jews
of
she
what they
knows
are,
doing well.
and when she said that, I said, like, oh, okay, so I think there's like a certain lack of awareness of, yeah, you Jews for a generation doing well, but I don't think you're sensitive or as aware of the decades, hundreds, thousands-year-long repeated persecution of Jews throughout history that has happened.
Trauma.
Yeah, and like maybe you don't expect someone to really necessarily
Honestly,
understand that the way we do.
We really do as Jews, like I think because like we grew up with literally all of us were told 1,000 times growing up. It's until it's coming out of our ears that we've been persecuted.
Yeah.
But we can't always expect. I'm not laying her off. Like if you have 4 million followers, you better know what you're talking about. I'm saying your average non-Jew. We can't expect them to understand what it's like to be a Jew and our history. Why do they? I don't know Indian people's history.
Yeah.
I don't know what's been going on.
And I'll tell you why. Not that I don't agree with your point. I hear 100% what you're saying, but like, let's say you're talking to a bunch of Armenians. You know about the Armenian genocide. It's like,
I don't.
Do you
then
know
you're
about
under Iraq? You know about the Holocaust?
I'm a little bit under Iraq.
The concept that I'm bringing out.
I've
is,
heard of it,
You know
yeah.
about the Holocaust, and if you have any knowledge about the Holocaust, it's a famous thing. Jews have always been persecuted. 6 million were killed. It's a very clear, obvious thing. You don't have to know 2,000 years of Jewish history and all the pogroms and crusades
know
that
that we've
happened
been- yeah.
to know that the Jewish people
think
have
it-
always been persecuted.
But you wouldn't
It's
also
not-
comment on it if things
Right.
flared
I
up.
think
You
that's
wouldn't
the big
take to
difference.
Right.
Twitter. And what she made the mistake of doing is kind of loosely taking to Twitter about I wouldn't start even if I knew that there was an Armenian genocide and this happened. If all of a sudden there were recent tensions flaring up between Armenians and Turks, I wouldn't then say like I wouldn't start giving my takes on it.
Well, you have no idea what you're
And I
talking
get
about.
it. So that's the fair critique.
that's what I
But
said.
I will say, in the face of ignorance, you have two choices. You can scream at it or you can engage with it. I think ignorance is easier to fix than hate. And calling people the same thing, calling Richard Spencer and Nick Fuentes the same thing as you would call a Candace Owens or a Whoopi Goldberg is a bad move. You know,
I don't think it's as ignorant. I agree with you.
you know,
on
Whoopi
that
Goldberg
statement,
was saying,
but
"Oh my God, what an anti-Semite!" because she didn't know that she made a stupid comment about the Holocaust.
I agree with
Well, it's
you.
not
but
about
It
race.
depends who it is. For someone like Candace, I don't think it's ignorance. It's not ignorance. For Whoopi, yeah, she's a moron. Fair enough. Candace is not a moron.
It's
Straight
about
up.
man's inhumanity to man.
Candace is
No,
not a
he's
moron.
right. Candace is to an extent.
smart. She's smart.
She's an
She's-
isolationist, and she wants everyone to stop focusing on the Jewish crisis of
Whatever,
or
whatever.
any
it is.
crisis. What she, I think, doesn't also realize is the like foreign policy relationship that having Israel fight the same enemies that you would fight
Right.
is a strategic advantage. But that's an academic discussion, and whatever.
I think
There's
you tried to
isolation.
point that out to her at one point. That like,
Yeah, and
being
we-
pro-Israel doesn't go against being an isolationist.
Correct,
at
and
this
I'm just
point.
like also, but that's an academic discussion that I'm not even so equipped to have. I'm not like a foreign policy expert, but I do understand that argument. And there are arguments that all my fundamental point is that when you face, it was revealed to me in talking to her, and I spoke to her like about it. That okay, interesting. Like there's some things that you might be ignorant or unaware of in this situation. I'm not close to this issue. I'm not Jewish. And I think she was feeling this pressure to comply, and she has an instinct to go against that grain, whether it's BLM pressuring her to support BLM. No,
Right.
all lives matter. And I take her at it that it's genuine in certain respects. And yeah, you know, I don't know. You can't read what's in someone's mind or
that's
heart.
not always
You can
a good
only
thing.
engage with them in person. And when you're engaged with someone in person, it's a bit different.
You
get a
can't
certain
always
read.
listen to the voice. And I have that voice also.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm in a room where people disagree with me, I'll automatically start like
Yeah.
pushing more to my side because I like being the troll, the other side.
Mm-hmm.
But there's danger in that. You can't that's not what adults do.
Mm-hmm.
The mature adults in the room do not just always push into like, well, they're pressuring me to be a certain way, so I can't be that way. You still have to weigh the
But
ideas.
I
Even
give-
if they're being unfair and pressuring, you have to weigh the ideas.
Of course, but I give credit where it's due. She said, "Come on and let's talk," and she put the whole thing out unedited,
Right.
for 50 minutes.
Oh, that's impressive.
And I'm like, okay, that will give you a certain perspective on the situation.
I mean, when are you
which
going
is
to be
like,
a
you know,
politician? When are you announcing the...
Well, actually, in 2024, I'm not gonna.
No, you're good. Yeah, I hear.
Were you surprised that
keep
like
rolling.
people like you had Professor Galloway or Galloway, which I'm a big fan of.
Man,
his.
we're in a crisis right now. We're in a crisis right now. It's a disaster.
Are you seeing a lot of like very secular? Like he's a very secular Jew. Like
Right.
are you seeing you probably know a lot of secular Jews like out in the common world and stuff like that. Are you seeing a lot of Jews all of a sudden coming out of the woodwork and being like, yeah, I think I'm going to lean into my Jewish identity right now.
Certainly with him, I was pretty moved by that. It was like he said it on other podcasts since mine about, you know.
I'm just saying Renan Hirschberg has not posted its film pick yet, and I'm upset.
Well, I get that because
I'm joking.
well, no, with Scott, he said on another podcast that I was watching where he was like, for the first time in my life, I'm like, do we have to move to Tel Aviv? Like, we're in a disaster right now. No, he's just started like the summoning of one's Jewish identity to the forefront. I've seen in a few cases. I don't know if it's everybody, but it's certainly anti-Semitism will bring it out of everybody because there's nothing that makes you feel more Jewish than people seeking your destruction or hate because of that fact. And I think for people who don't have a strong Jewish rooted background, whether it's through like practice, ritual, community, it becomes a really scary place. Like I want to speak out for myself. I don't even know how to do that. I don't have the language to do that. I don't have the community to do that. I just was a Jew because I was a Jew and we did a few things over the years, but I don't necessarily have roots or anything to necessarily like, you know, combat that in a way. And I think a lot of my videos when I was putting them out were trying to tell people like, for people who didn't feel comfortable articulating support for Israel and support for the Jewish community, but wanted to, like, I think I'd like to think it was helpful for them because I'm not going to reach people who are like hating Jews or hating Israel, like, you know, maybe, but it's really for people who are like,
no, you can't.
Who are like, I do feel this kinship and I do feel support. And it does seem obviously wrong what Hamas did. I just don't know how to do it without seeming like I'm like when you're removed from a subject, you don't want to comment on it. And even a lot of Jews are removed from Israel. And removed from the Jewish community.
How plugged in are you in like the literal facts on like what's going on in the war, the day to day, Are you plugged in?
Not that plugged in. I mean, not any more than I think the average like engaged person who's caring about it. I don't have like, I mean, I've gone to a few events where like Rudy Rachman has talked about like what's going on the ground and a few people, and I've heard in doing panels and stuff. I've heard from like soldiers.
Have
and
you
people.
learned anything about Israel or its history since October 7th? Have you learned anything that has surprised you?
I don't think that surprised me. I do. It does bother me that like Israel, in a way, still sort of plays this game of trying to appease the masses of the world that already despise it. And to the extent that Israel always does that, look how good we are, look how moral we are, look how just we are, look at this, look at this, look at this. Everyone just hates it more. And when Israel does that, I always feel like it loses in the end. So I'm a little more hardcore than that.
I think it all comes down to...
Why are you trying to like...
Do you firmly believe that they're like fully moral?
Fully moral?
Like the IDF, like the entire, like the army.
I mean, perfect is the enemy of the good, and no institution is perfect. But I think even calling their mistakes highlights the morality of the IDF. When they mistakenly do something, it's exactly that. It's a mistake because it goes against a moral standard that a civilized country is trying to abide by. The idea of a war crime and the idea of human rights only exists in the context of a nation and a country that respects that.
That's a good point.
Doesn't exist in Hamas. There's no such thing as a war crime, and there's no such thing as rights there. And we're trying to like delude ourselves into having this conversation over which side is more moral. It's so obviously the case because the idea of human rights and sanctity of human life only exists on the Israel side.
It's so unbelievable, by the way.
Not Hamas.
What?
You're not saying that about Palestinians, but you're saying that about Hamas.
So
I'm saying it's certainly about Hamas, proudly so.
It's first of all, there's more and more polls that keep on coming out that the whole idea there's like 2.3. I was watching David Friedman was talking about this, about how the idea that there's just like Hamas, 40,000 fighters in government, and then like 2.3 million innocent Palestinians. How that's a total sham for the most part. Like there's a significant amount of the population that is extremism pro Hamas. For sure, all the people that voted them in originally.
It's a shame about all Islamic extremism.
Yeah.
Right. The concept that Islamic extremism is such a small, minute percentage of Islamic people has been proven to be false.
I know we'd all love to believe that we pluck Hamas out of there and then we have a peace-loving culture that wants coexistence with Israel and Jews. I don't. If my gut, what does your gut tell
Welcome
me?
to the West Bank.
My gut tells me it's a start for sure.
What?
My gut tells me at least it's a
what
start
is the start?
because
What's a start?
What is Hamas?
it's a start is getting people off the airways, off their media that is indoctrinating them constantly telling them lies about Israel or lies about Jews or just filling them with hate. That's definitely a start. I do, like you said earlier in this conversation, ignorance, very well you said that ignorance is easier to change than hatred. I do believe both are changeable, and it starts with get the people at the head who are controlling the media and controlling all the speeches, get them out there, replace them with people who are at least sensible human beings, and then we can start.
Well, that's a big ask. What you just
and
said right there. Pop. Oh, we got another one here.
Really?
They want to take them. I just think I think we like to kid ourselves into believing that the anti-Semitism in the larger Muslim world is much less. I think it's a lot more. And I think you hear testimony from so many people who have defected from that world saying like, it's just the standard given to hate Jews.
So I've been watching.
Even Kumail Nanjiani, he's like, I grew up in Pakistan, and it's like, it's normal life. There's doctors and lawyers, but I was raised to hate Jews. It was so weird. And when I got finally to LA and started working with Jews and to the States, I realized, okay, but that's the hidden secret, It's like the amount of anti-Semitism. I'm not being radical or extremist to say that. I think there's a delusion. We'd love to believe that everybody has the same values fundamentally and wants the same thing. Are there oppressed Palestinians who are innocent? Are there children? Of course.
Right. Half of Gaza is children.
And the whole point is we pride ourselves in being more of a morally superior army for not deliberately targeting those things. Otherwise, you're making different points. You can't say they're all combatants and they're all equally evil as Hamas militant operatives, while at the same time priding yourself on trying to avoid civilian casualties. Those two ideas are contradictory. Because by nature, you're saying, okay, there are people who are innocent bystanders, and I agree with that, and collateral damage. That having that notion, implies that you make a distinction between the Hamas regime and the regimes that support it and the innocent civilians caught.
Do you agree with like?
But to the extent that there's support, there's staggering support for Hamas, and for there's the amount of anti-Semitism and Jew hatred in the culture. I don't know if that's Israel's responsibility to fix. I don't think you can fight for your survival and try to change other cultures at the same time. But
no, I think to a certain degree their own culture has to fight for that.
Right.
But there's
craziest.
I mean, I think with Gaza, I think what's also caught so many people's like attention here is that Gaza has this very specific identity as being literally like half children. So you have like.
Well, also be careful with that set too. Is a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old a child? I don't know what these numbers mean. They all come from the Hamas regime.
I think
by
so.
The way,
even if they're indoctrinated, you, buddy, I was indoctrinated
just
at 16 years old.
Not one soldier has died from Hamas. 23,000 deaths. All of them civilians. Every single one.
I'm just saying.
There's no combatants.
I'm not necessarily.
They don't put out everyone is one.
I take it all from a grain of salt. All the information, all the civilian casualty count and death you get is from the Hamas regime.
It's a joke.
And I think when it comes to a regime,
wait, is that true? Because
UNRWA.
Why aren't there other numbers coming from anyone other than the Hamas?
Who's this supposed to come
who
from?
controls Gaza? I mean, all the journalists there, the UNRWA. UN people, you're seeing these stories that are coming out that they held hostages.
Imagine America
in UNRWA buildings with UNRWA people.
The Red Cross in Gaza was complacent in hostages.
And I'm just saying the regime that was responsible for raping women and burning children alive draws the line at lying to the press. I don't think so.
Right.
So I'm not saying that there isn't terrible suffering and civilian death in Gaza. Of course there is, and I do think that in a war of self-defense. The people who aggressed against Israel are completely responsible for that, which is Hamas. So I'm not denying it, while at the same time, I'm not saying it doesn't exist while at the same time. I mean, of course it does, but to the extent that it does, you take all these numbers with a grain of salt.
What would you say? Let's play devil's advocate here, because I think it's important for people to hear this. As someone who's like a staunch Israel supporter, and you're speaking logic to me, but what would you say to someone if they were sitting across from you and saying, okay, it doesn't look like self-defense right now?
What part of it doesn't look like self-defense?
First of all, some people believe the numbers. Let's say the numbers are. Let's say the numbers.
You could believe it's like 200,000 people
Laibel
dead.
asked him.
I'm just. Why can't you ask me? I'll give you the answer. Let's say 200,000 people died. Therefore, what? Hold on.
there
What does that mean?
begins to have questions of what is self-defense and what is not.
Why? Who decided what self-defense is? I have a question for you. Is one person allowed
Who
to die?
doesn't decide it?
No, okay, it's a good question. Is one person allowed to die? Let's just say I told you the entire Hamas will be wiped out, but one person will die. One civilian, is that okay?
I would think yes.
Why? Who made you decide of death over
Because
one person?
every war has collateral damage.
Oh, good. So I'm saying the exact same thing. So why do you get to decide 200,000 for me to stay alive?
Yeah, so Laibel's saying it's arbitrary.
That sounds
right?
a little extreme. It just sounds a
It
little
sounds
extreme.
arbitrary. I can tell you this.
It doesn't
the
even sound, to
morals-
be honest, it doesn't even sound very Jewish.
The
that
moral
concept.
It has
standard-
nothing to do with that. It's called a self-defense. It's a very Jewish
The
concept,
moral
actually. I
standard
disagree
of
with you.
war, when you're at war, the moral standard is decided on who aggressed and who is now defending themselves. If you start a war of aggression, then the aim fundamentally of the nation responding in self-defense is to eliminate that threat. That's the proportional response.
Right.
You do everything you can and no more to eliminate the Nazi regime, the imperialist Japan regime. You do these things to win. It's to be swift, quick, it's brutal, it's awful. That's what war is. There's no avoiding it. And self-defense requires that you eliminate the threat that aggressed against you. And there is collateral damage. To the extent that there is, it lies at the accountable feet of Hamas, who started this. Not a single civilian would be dead right now if not for October
I
I
7th.
say
agree.
even better.
I
If they
fully
gave up right now, if they surrendered right now,
Yeah.
the war would be over. Not one other civilian would
So
die.
war determines strategic advantage to the person who can win, to the defenders who can win the war. And you have to set that as your standard. We have to win. So we have to destroy Hamas's and completely disarm Hamas's ability to ever do that again and ever really exist as any sort of powerful regime. And in doing so, that is the standard by which you operate.
Do you think that what's happening right now in Israel, even if we fully successfully get rid of Hamas, is it not going to just create a future Hamas that's going to radicalize the next generation?
No, I don't think that's true. I think history says that when you completely decimate a regime, the population loses faith in that regime's ability to have its self-interest at heart. It happened in
was the
Germany.
question?
It happened in Germany. It happened in Japan, where we
Right,
completely
What was
the
destroyed
question? I
these
missed that question.
ideologies.
Let me tell.
Yeah.
The question was, are we in destroying Hamas with, let's be honest, a lot of force?
Yeah.
Are we radicalizing the next Hamas?
Let's say we are.
Well, I'm saying then it's just
That's a
So
great
then
question.
you-
Hold on one second. It's a great question. Let's say we are. Then what? What would you suggest? Keep
there-
Hamas in place right now?
no. That's
So what's your outcome?
No,
So
he's
what's your-
saying
what's
if we're
your
talking
what-
about a strategic advantage, is it
What's your-
self-defeating?
I'm asking more of a.
What's your
it's a- as in
outcome? I
first-
want to know what the outcome is. What's your solution? This is what the post what I posted. I'm asking because I would literally said this exact thing.
Yeah.
Therefore, what? Let's say you're right. You have a crystal ball, and what you're saying is correct.
There isn't a
Now what?
therefore. I'm talking just conjecture. I just want to know what he thinks will be the future. There is no point.
Oh
I'm not
no,
making a
because that
political
point is always used. I keep on hearing it on Pierre's.
I
and all
know,
these
which is
people
why you just jumped
as
on
a-
me, but
no,
I
because
wasn't
it's-
saying it as
No, but I
political.
hear it all the time.
Yes.
Because of the fact that okay. So what's your solution?
It's
To all
I've
these
heard
people,
it.
what
I've heard
is
the
your-
point. It's a fair point
okay.
because you're like, are you radicalizing the next generation by using force and
Okay,
defending yourself?
maybe you
Is
are.
there a self-defeating result?
What's the other option?
What? I don't think it does do that.
No, man. Let's see. It does. What's your other option?
What's that?
What's your other option?
Look, I'm not.
Keep Hamas in power?
I'm not a military tactician. I don't know what the other option is.
Can you have an option of Hamas staying in power? According to you?
Absolutely not.
Good.
No.
So then who gives a shit what's going to happen to the next
Then
generation?
you take care of the next one. That's what
Yes,
you're saying.
correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
If there are a bunch of rats here, but they laid eggs,
Yeah.
should I not kill these rats?
Do rats lay eggs?
What the?
I'm just giving you an
They do.
example. Whatever.
What rats have you met in your life?
Whatever. I'm giving you an
They
example,
do.
right?
They lay
Wait,
larvae.
rats
I,
lay-
I,
I'm
have
just
a, I have a ground floor apartment in New York
They
City.
lay larvae?
Yeah, they
I'm
do.
asking you a
What?
question. It's a very simple
I'm
question.
learning so many things here.
a mouse in my
Stim
apartment laid
and
larvae.
rats laying eggs. Yeah.
If there are a bunch of rats here that are going to reproduce, do you kill the rats here, or do you say, well, you know something?
I guess that's
since they're
how-
going to reproduce anyways, let's just leave these right here.
Right.
There's
But
no
he's saying
common
better than
logic
that.
to
He's
this.
saying
He's saying
historically
it's not
speaking, it's
going
not
to
going to
happen.
happen.
Okay, I
agree,
have
but
one answer, and the other answer is it could be that you just keep whack-a-moling.
Yeah, totally.
In that sense,
No,
it's
and
like
you
that's
choose
the
peace.
military. That's the military thing. I'm not speaking on that because I'm not a military tactician. A lot of people on TikTok think they are. A lot of people think Israel's just like carpet bombing Gaza, which they're not doing, and they could. They could just take it all out, and they don't do
Well,
that.
that's why the word genocide really upsets me. Is because
Yeah.
like this is
And I know you
very
don't-
obviously
not.
not a genocide. I'm very plugged in on like
Yeah.
both sides. I'm trying to be as easy as possible. I definitely think that Israel is guilty of war crimes
Yeah.
at the moment. I also think there's literally never been a war fought ever that sides were not guilty of war crimes.
Who's guilty?
There is definitely a feeling on some Jews where it's like, oh, Israel's not capable of
Can
doing
you
war
tell me
crimes.
which war
Obviously,
crimes?
Israel.
I'm just curious. Which war crimes?
Okay, first of all, there's like video. I've seen like video footage of Israeli soldiers walking in. They're shooting journalists. They're shooting children. They're literally shooting children that are running away. They're shooting like small children. They've shot like 67 or something journalists they've killed. and you're like not allowed to kill journalists in war.
Time
There's
out,
war
one second,
crimes.
one second.
It's fine. I
hold
still
on.
agree with 90% of what he's saying.
Well, look, first of all, you've seen videos. You are convinced that Israel has deliberately targeted journalists for assassination.
I'm not even saying the word deliberate.
So
I did not even say
deliberate
the word
is
deliberate.
what matters in war. That makes all the difference.
I'm saying it might be deliberate.
Well, I would say there's
died in
no way
Germany
it's
in World War
deliberate,
II.
and if it was, they would be tried. And no Hamas fighter would ever be tried.
No, that's for sure.
But I'm just saying, if
Me criticizing Israel does not all of a sudden mean therefore I think Hamas is good or better.
what I'm saying is, if Israel
Hamas is a bunch of
deliberately
dirtbags.
targeted a journalist,
Yeah.
deliberately targeted a journalist or a child, they would be brought in front of a tribunal and tried in Israel for doing that. If Israel unintentionally if Israel finds itself in a firefight at a weapons cache in an area where there's embedded amongst children and journalists and journalists, the same amount die. A lot of people confuse body count and death count and
with deliberation.
What?
With deliberation.
With ascribing what is the morality to that. If I'm in my car and there's a group of people here and my brakes go out and I lose control of the car and I run over all of them and they all die. 50 people, 10 people die from me going out of control with my car. That's a very different thing morally than if I'm driving and I just decide to turn my car and deliberately take them out. Now the footage of that, the news of that would look exactly the same. And one would say, well, look, he just ran over 10 people. But the intention is what matters when deciding what is moral about it. So I will say that when you see these images and see these optics, the optics of war are the worst things you could ever see. And nobody wishes it upon anybody. And none of it would happen if you don't attack a sovereign country.
You know something?
So I will say the standard has to be victory. And you don't create more terrorists by doing that. You say to these people, these regimes, you don't do this. If you attack sovereign countries like us and kill our people and our civilians, you will be met with the wrath of our defense, and I think eventually populations will lose faith in those regimes.
Yeah.
So you actually think you see a positive, a future, like for the generations to come, or at least the coming decades, positive, like a peaceful. Do you see like a two-state solution just without Hamas there? Like, what do you see?
I mean, at this
I know
point,
you're not like a.
No,
like
I know. I mean, I think that's wishful
Two-state
thinking.
solution. Two-state solution is.
Yeah, I don't see it because it's been tried so many times. I don't know. Is it ever possible? Would I love to see like, Gaza, this sovereign country next to Israel, and Jews could go in and work there, and vice versa.
Right.
That's a great, vision in the mind of like, why didn't it look like that since 2005? Why didn't it happen the last 20 years?
Ami, you should know something.
Yeah.
The truest line is the most cliche line of all time, but it describes the whole thing perfectly.
Yeah.
If Israel puts down its weapons, there will be peace.
Opposite.
There will be peace. If Israel
come from a hateful place. I would love it to be that way.
I don't think
it is. Yeah, So.
Anyways, back to real business.
Yo.
Not real business. That was real business. But back to showbiz.
Yes, show business.
The first time I really started tuning into you,
Yeah.
right? I got it, like I said before. You were impersonating Jordan Peterson, and then you impersonated me. I was very, very honored by that. Mm-hmm. I did, but I gotta tell you.
Even though he called you constipated.
I don't give a shit. I'm just saying when
No, you really don't give a shit.
I know you took a shit before we started this episode, just so he would feel. What
do you say?
I said I know you relieved yourself before we started this episode, so that I wouldn't. Yeah.
No, but
Loosey-goosey.
I happen to think, and other people told me it wasn't a great impersonation. So I need something better. Have you worked on the impersonation at all?
I did watch a few clips. By the way, sweet. By the way, people think I have a weird voice, but like I know you wanted this to happen like right off the onset. You were waiting for this impression, but like,
is that the way I sound?
It's pretty good.
I mean, people say like I have a weird voice. By the way,
It doesn't sound like you, but there's like aspects of it that
no,
are
it doesn't. No, watch what. This is you having a bad dream. Ready? So there's lips, there's face, there's like.
You have to get. He does a lot.
By the way, okay. What happened? Okay, well, why would you guys want to do this? By the way, let's go.
I was telling them before. I have one friend I think does a better impersonation than Ami.
Of me?
Of you.
Who?
Oh, wait, that's the next clip.
Is there
Mislabeled.
somebody-
Is we're putting out a contest.
There's someone who
best
does label better than me.
I happen to think you do the best impersonation of every other one, but mislabeled, I have one.
By the way, let's go. I want to see it. I want to be on.
No, we're gonna do a contest.
Okay.
We're gonna do a contest on Mislabeled, and
People say like I have a weird voice. I don't know.
My friend said you sound like you gargle cigarettes.
I did for quite some time.
No, not smoking. Put it down.
By the way, give me the menthols. Menthols light. Oh, I love that. By the way, really tasty. Light them all up. I don't care.
Zach, I don't think you understand. I don't care.
By the way, when I was 5 years old, I swallowed a bunch of lit cigarettes. That's why I sound like this. By the way, my esophagus is on fire right now. There's blisters everywhere. By the way, Shlita.
He went to like a voice doctor. Didn't she tell you that like if you continue the way you're doing, you're not gonna be able to?
Oh, you
talk
get
at
it. You
40?
have a thing on. You got some stuff
He has
on the
polyps.
polyps.
I have. She actually told me, she's like, you have of the worst vocal cords I've ever seen in my life. She told me.
And you're like, I'm a
I have one
podcast
too.
host.
I have one too from singing all the years. I have a little scar tissue.
Oh, I can't say that I'm like.
You've gotten scoped through the nose and
Yeah,
seen it
yeah,
all?
yeah, I did that whole thing. Yeah.
So it's just
what
like
is this supposed to
Shlita.
be?
These
It's
are your
actually
vocal
pretty weird.
cords.
They put something up your nose and
His
move down.
vocal cords
put
say
you out?
Shlita. No,
Yeah. So they put it. You went to a laryngologist. They put a scope down the nose and they said, "Okay, talk." It's Shlita.
She
Buckle up, Shlita. Okay. By the way, people say I have a weird voice. What do you see? I see the worst vocal cords I've ever seen. There's a cigarette in there.
How did he get the cigarette to say?
Somebody get me my tools. Oh my god.
There's a Tom and Bovley in his esophagus.
My
How
god,
did
this is a
this
Cuban
happen?
cigar. Like I swallowed it when I was 7, whatever. Shlita.
That's my question. So
By the
some
way-
people, I have a few friends who say it's like from smoking because I did smoke.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't really make so much sense.
It's
'cause there's
from
a lot of
yelling
people
to
who
be
smoke,
heard your whole
Right.
life.
a lot.
Yeah.
Other people say that's because I think it makes more sense because I don't talk from the right place.
Yeah, you don't.
You also you sing, so you maybe would know
you
this.
talk from like you don't talk from the right place, and I've had that too, where it's like talking like tight.
Right.
You're
Right.
like way up here.
He's talking from
You're
his
going
throat.
like, oh, okay, here we go. Now I'm in the label voice, right here in the throat. You're like
Right.
getting very tense, and like your neck goes like crazy when you're talking about Hamas and it's going too long, and you want to move on to other subjects. It's just like veins busted. It's like come on, too much on this like serious shit. Let's get funny. It's like right up there. But you have to learn how to speak properly. I think you just need to go to a coach and.
I have no patience. So everyone says that's what they told
Probably
me.
no.
I'm
Most
like,
of us
I
did it when we were
understand.
4, but
What?
most of us learned how to speak when we were 4. But like 26
I know.
later, you
No, it's not true. I mean, everyone kind of just starts speaking, right? But like
It's actually funny because
a
voice
people who
voice-
lose their
it's a
voice a
voice.
lot, you probably lost your voice
Okay,
a
yeah.
ton.
usually
course,
when
yeah.
Label is like shown something that other people do, he's like, I could do it. I could do it better. Which he wants to do comedy now. He wants to do comedy.
You
So
wanna
it's
be-
I could be a great
I
comedian.
think
You wanna
I think
do
you
stand-up?
should go
I
to
wanna
a
be clear.
vocal.
Yeah, we have a whole
You
thing
should
about
go to a
this.
vocal coach
I've seen
and
it.
you should become the best singer.
No.
What
it's
about
not-
your singing voice? Is
I
it
wanna
just
be
as
clear.
bad? Is it just as rough around the
He
edges?
can kind of sing.
I could definitely carry it too,
Yeah.
like for sure.
Oh, for
He's
sure.
got that Daughtry rock rasp.
But I'm not-
Sounds
not-
like Nickelback.
Do you sing from a different place though? Because you're talking like from here. It's very tense.
sings from his
all the
neshama and
time.
nowhere else.
So you're like, ugh.
Directly from the neshama.
Of course.
No, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
I had
We'll have
issues
to-
because I
we'll
was
have to
singing
do
all the
courses.
time, but I was not singing properly, and I got injuries for it, and I would lose my voice, and I have all these issues. So I like went to a vocal coach and worked in for a little while on like correcting how to sing properly, which helps how you talk, especially after a show when you're talking to a crowd in a loud room.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're just like, oh, no. Yeah. I was always like, no, talking like this.
whenever I
Where
go
are
away
you
for
supposed to
Shabbos-
sing from?
What?
Where are you supposed to sing from?
It's a good question. I mean,
What's the healthiest place to sing?
you know,
Oh.
it's not in your throat. You know, your vocal cords vibrate from sound. Like they vibrate, which creates the sound, but like it's really from, how do you
Belly?
describe it? Like
Solar plexus?
if I go, here, it's a lot more resonant. I mean, this has got really weird because we're doing vocal exercises on a podcast.
Okay.
But you're supposed to kind of, it's not supposed to hurt. It's not supposed to be tense, even if you sing high.
I feel
It's not supposed to be high.
I feel like that vocal warm up you just did is how most people do Jeff Goldblum's voice.
but,
so anyways, here we go. I'm Jeff
but,
Goldblum.
yeah, I don't do the best Jeff, but.
Oh, okay, very nice.
No, but it's supposed to feel good. It's not supposed to feel like, and especially if you sing higher or whatever like that.
I feel like you could do a good Dershowitz for some reason. I don't know why.
Jews and non-Jews. I could say Jews, but just the word Jews, just the word Jews is a travesty. What's happening, and it's purely the fault of Hamas. Jews, Hamas. This is purely the fault of Hamas.
Can you do
This
him-
is the CNN strategy, which we
Yes.
talk about. This is all part of the CNN strategy, and it is all part and parcel with the strategy of Hamas.
When I was in
this is
Martha's
what I
Vineyard-
call it, the dead baby strategy. We saw a lot of those on Epstein's Island. No. I couldn't resist. I do a Norman Finkelstein too.
Oh God.
Oh, dude.
I want to have a civil conversation. Listen, Laibel. Your voice is what happens when you periodically mow the lawn inside your throat. If you put lit cigarettes, as Israel does in Gaza, inside your vocal cords, you're going to sound like shit.
It's actually amazing, by the way. It's incredible.
Yeah.
What do you think about him, by the way?
Norm? Oh,
Yeah.
God.
I mean, aside from the fact that he's
He's a monster.
a piece of shit. Yeah.
He's a monster.
Unbelievable. No?
I don't know what motivates him, but he's a total monster.
It's unbelievable also. Imagine,
I think
He
people
says,
are
the
motivated.
events of October 7th warmed my soul. I only wrote that when I thought 50 children had been killed, not beheaded. That remains an open question. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you?
and he loves using his parents, throwing his parents in there.
Excuse me, I have to say, Auschwitz. That's my argument. Terrible. Just
I mean, certain people get off on being the contrarian. Like, it's certain people need to be the Jew that is.
I don't know psychologically what that comes from because he's a moral monster. The way he's
a real.
Honestly, if he hadn't said that thing about October 7th, like, newsflash, like, it's possible he's motivated by truth, but that once you're saying that type of line on October 7th,
he said it about suicide bombers all through the Intifada too. He said it about.
to be honest, I heard about him 3 weeks ago. I haven't been following his career.
I've been every violent, most atrocious act against Israel has been part of the resistance because Gaza is an open air concentration camp.
By the way, it's not open air prison. It's a concentration
camp. I mean, every act of violence is justified.
Do you remember the Warsaw Ghetto?
It's the worst of morality you could get.
When in the Warsaw Ghetto, we got $16 billion. We're like, here, take it.
So he's a moral monster. And he's a failed academic, completely debunked and disgraced. He never got tenure at DePaul University. They Alan Dershowitz had a whole campaign to deny his tenure, and he got denied because he's just
they actually listen. Israel doesn't. I don't even think it lets him in anymore.
Yeah, I think that I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but either way,
or maybe they do now.
He does. He was banned. At some point, I tried to get into. All I wanted was shawarma, and I couldn't get it. I'm working on a Dovi impression too, by the way.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't think I talked enough on this podcast yet.
But I know Dovi a little. But yeah, we'll get there. Dovi's just like it's a little more like young and like sexy. I'm trying to like put together a show. I want to do it like on the moon, but Orthodox. And I want to get like rabbis and comedians together, like in space, and I want to fill it with people from Bergenfield.
That's actually
it's actually a real conversation we had though.
Oh yeah. It's like you got to get that little bit.
I was just watching Lex Friedman had on Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, I saw that.
There was a 5-minute conversation about space, space exploration, and everything. Definitely one of the funniest 5 minutes of my life. Basically, Bezos was talking about how he wants 1 trillion people.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want, 1,000 Elon Musks. And he's like, yeah, we're going to create galaxies, and Earth is going to be like a vacation spot.
We're just going to create galaxies in space. It's going to be great. So, like, in the morning, I'll have, like, coffee. I'll check an email, and then I'll take a nap.
Did you ever, play, pranks on your parents? Could you get, people in your family down?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
You mean calling as members of my family?
Yeah.
I've called my mom as random characters, made up characters. Prank calls. I was like.
I'm not an impersonator.
Probably excellent at.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can imagine.
Definitely have a prank call history that's very solid. I love Lex
I love a
Friedman,
good
too.
prank call in the voice. There's one incredible of Dan Soder doing Chappelle. He does a perfect Chappelle. Yeah, you know what I'm talking
Louis J. Gomez. Yeah.
I sounded
Dan
exactly.
Soder's amazing. I love Dan Soder. Wow, so awesome. He's amazing. Russians are the scariest white people.
I sounded exactly like my dad. I still do.
Yeah.
And he's a rabbi. So when people used to call questions and I answer the phone, they would just launch into it. Because I answer the phone.
That's great.
I feel like everyone.
And I'm like, what the hell? I'll answer this.
You sound like your dad sounds like you. You have the same
Exactly.
voice. Wow.
On the phone, you can't tell the difference. So I'll just be like, yeah, you can mix those two things if you want.
Trust me, your wife is good to go to tonight.
You're like
yourself out.
You're like giving people halakhic advice. That's
Everyone watching the pod right now would believe that your dad is a rabbi because you're rocking like a Torah hat.
A 613 hat.
What about me? I'm that much
size.
more likely if you didn't know me.
Your father a rabbi?
His father's
much
Rosh
worse.
Hashiva.
Much more.
It's all
drama.
making sense. I don't know. Give me a little bit of that. Your father's Rosh Hashiva of what?
He's not Rosh Hashiva. He's the Manal of Chavetz Chaim in Brooklyn.
It's principal.
Okay.
Not that it's that much better, but
Please translate Manal as principal
not a
for the
Rosh
one
Hashiva.
non-Jew still listening.
Manal is a principal. Yes, principal.
I think his trauma is much worse than mine. Because my dad was more removed. He was like a Rosh Hashiva of an institution that weighed in a lot of things.
It's also it's modern orthodoxy in your world, isn't it? Isn't it like the pinnacle?
Dude, YU
of
is
it?
never
Why
gonna
you?
touch the trauma of the other.
Yeah, no, of course
Not to
not.
invalidate.
But where are you?
Well, Laibel, what's his trauma? What's the trauma? Let's just do that. Like quick 2 minutes on that.
Quick trauma. What do you want? What do you want to know?
I don't know. Like your
We spoke
story.
about last podcast.
I don't think I have any trauma.
One thing you responded in the Buckle Up beef was like, I don't think if like you watch this podcast, I don't think he really understands like my views and what I am and what I've been through. But what have you
I
been
didn't say
through?
been through. What did I say I've been
I
through?
made that up. I'm impersonating you. But like, you know, there's like an understanding we didn't have when we were riffing on you.
No, we were talking about this actually recently also. Literally, it just came up on the last Zoom call we had when we were on Dovi that like, I think people think that for me, this podcast is like an
Anti the system.
Anti- the Torah establishment.
Anti-Torah podcast. Nothing can be further from the truth than for me. Like literally nothing. I'm extremely pro-Torah. I'm very much of Torah, significantly. And
Made that pretty clear with Flatbush.
yeah, with Flatbush, like I'm saying exactly as you would know, I don't have a problem at all. I have my own like. There are certain things probably within the system that I don't like. I'm typically I try to call things exactly as I see them, and you know I don't kind of don't judge Judaism by the Jews. Like when it comes to Judaism, for sure. Like do Jews sometimes do things wrong? For sure. Would I call that out if I saw it? 100% I would. But I'm not like inherently angry at the system or anything like that. Like I don't know. I just do my own
Laibel is
thing.
not angry at Torah. He's angry at his parents.
Right. Honestly, probably
You're
a lot.
bitter and resentful. You know, I can see that. You know, I pick it up.
Definitely a lot closer to that. Like I honestly, that's
really
the
is
truth.
the
Like
best
for
of
me, it's just like if I have a problem, I don't go to like the community or Torah at all. I'm like, there are a lot of people I know that are living very, very happy lives that live Torah lives. Like a lot. Like for me,
You don't
it's
take it
inward.
out on the community. It's just personal for you.
Well, it's probably more my own issues. Yeah. My parents probably whatever. My own childhood. Yeah, I don't think because again,
Were you
look
like
at
in and out of the system, bouncing around yeshivas, that
Just
kind of
out.
stuff?
growing up.
Just out. Dude, he had a heart. That's the craziest thing. I stayed in yeshiva. I'm like the least yeshiva person on this podcast by like 7 miles. And I stayed in
Least
yeshiva.
Yeshua person on this podcast of the
Yeah.
three of us.
But he was out at 17. I stayed until I was 24.
You went
This
rogue
guy was outie.
and like didn't talk to your parents for a couple of years or something like that.
I didn't say that happened. What are you talking about?
I'm
didn't
inferring.
happen.
You didn't say it
I'm
didn't
inferring.
happen.
I'm pretty accurate though. Like we went rogue. We don't know where
Potentially.
Laibel is.
What?
We don't know where Laibel is, kind of thing.
No. I mean, I wouldn't say as not exactly like that. I just did my own thing for 5-6 years. That's all.
Hey.
But I was weird. I was a weird guy. I was like still going to like Thursday night schmoozing, but I was like doing my own thing. I was weird. Like I wasn't in school. I wasn't in yeshiva, but like all my friends were like yeshiva guys still are. Like,
I went to a couple of there's
weird.
stuff in Brooklyn. There's weird stuff in Brooklyn.
Woodburn. That's really where it's
Not
at.
Woodburn. Not
that's
Woodburn.
upstairs.
There's the Thursday night. What's it called? It was called something. It was.
Oh,
the
in Flatbush?
Yeah, it was called the
Cholent.
Cholent. Yeah,
You used to go to Cholent?
I've been to
what was
it.
Cholent?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Cholent's
see,
a
I'm
weird
holding
crowd.
a little bit.
I don't even know
Wait,
what
what
you're
is
talking
that?
about.
That's what when he
That's
said
a Crown
Thursday.
Heights show a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. Crown
No,
Heights.
it wasn't a
That's
Crown
a
Heights.
hippie
I don't
show.
know.
Wait, what's the Thursday night challenge besides the actual?
you
No,
explain
it's
that?
not. It's I can barely. I've only been to Cholent once, but it's like this.
Sort of place for lost souls,
Lost
defected,
souls, yeah.
defected.
You have
off
everything
the
from
dark.
like guys like Ami to like some like dude who probably saw the Grateful Dead live like back in the day and like has never come back down from the acid trip, and they're
Someone
all
who's
just
in the closet in a Bekisha, you know,
yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. It's like
He's there
real
like,
lost souls.
Right.
But honestly, it's beautiful. It's literally just
Sure.
Jews coming
No, it's a-
together to
it's a
sing
place, it's a
songs.
space.
It's
Anyways,
space.
back to it. That was just my thing. Like
Yeah.
this has nothing to do with the system or anything to do with that. I just that's all. That's my entire. I just try to call it like I see it. That's honestly the truth. Like if I see it, I'm just like, all right, this is what I think. I don't. I'm definitely not the perfect Jew. If that's what you were wondering.
Oh no.
I mean, not that you're wondering it, but
No,
Yeah,
like there were some things in the whole Flatbush Girl saga.
Wait, let's touch on that.
sure, go ahead.
Can we get into that?
We could get
Yeah,
into
go
it.
knock yourself out. Let's go.
Let's touch it. Let's
One
touch
more
it.
time. We want to touch on that. Where you were like, I don't think like you're saying my co-host was like, I don't think he really understands the purpose of
What
this
is your
podcast.
co-host name? Weber.
Michael. Yeah, Michael Weber.
Okay.
The purpose of this podcast and like what I'm about and all that kind of stuff that you were hinting at because I don't know fundamentally what you think the.
You have to remind me.
How do you feel the purpose?
Truly,
is?
you have to remind me what he said. Because
I think he was saying
promise
like
you I don't remember.
I just remember
what
the
he
clip.
said, so
Like
I can't respond.
I think your co-host, I forget his name's Michael.
Yeah.
So he had kind of comment like his critique was based off this premise that like this is a podcast where we take on the system and we are not the system. We came from that and we don't like that. Yet then when Flatbush was
So
coming in
that's
and ripping
not
on
true. I'm not.
ripping on the
so
podcast.
He was
That's what
using
I-
that to say Laibel must just
He got
be
so
a
defensive when
misogynist
someone-
Right. So that he's not a
because
misogynist. Anyone who knows anything about me would tell you straight up that it had nothing to do with if that was a girl or a guy. Like
women.
I would deliver that to whoever I heard it from, like straight up.
I think it was like that. It was about the issue. It was about like
I think it wasn't even her.
just-
It wasn't the gender. It was the coming against the system or against the grain, and you were very, very adamant about like holding the line, and yet. Maybe Michael would have expected you to be more sympathetic to someone who's going against the grain.
well, I think
I'm not
she-
fine with someone going against the grain. Again, to me, you are allowed to be conservative or reform. You can be whatever the hell you want. Just if you're conservative and reform, do not call yourself regular Orthodox. Like you're not. You're not. Like stop pulling that on anyone. You're full of shit. That's my point. And it's fine. You could be.
That's what I would imagine. You'd say that there's a standard. It's like I deviate from the standard. We all do, but I don't change the standard.
Right, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's
Right.
literally what I'm saying. Like
Right.
you like it's totally fine if you hold a different opinions that are not the traditional Orthodox opinion, but to sit there and say that everyone from the Orthodox world for the last, let's say, 1,000 years is wrong, including everyone.
Yeah,
that,
yeah, I get that.
That's all. That was my entire point of the entire podcast.
Look, we love
There's
Dovi,
some-
but I really wanted Flatbush Girl to be the third co-host. Can you imagine that
Yeah, I know.
dynamic every week?
Can you just catch? How did the whole beef happen? I know how it started.
It's so funny because
How many times have you rehashed?
I still
this?
haven't got it. Like that.
No.
Honestly, that's why I joined the podcast.
so
I just want
funny.
to know what the fuck happened. Like,
Yeah, and this was a whole back and forth thing forever. You know, look,
a year.
And it's funny, like we were looked at as like, oh, these men are allies and they're speaking up for. And I'm like, look, like it was hilarious what happened.
which men are allies.
That
No, him and
our
Michael were
clip
looked
got
at.
circulated, and there were some comments, and I appreciate the support. We were getting like, it's nice to see like men speaking up on behalf of, but I don't want to take full credit for that because like. We talked about it on our podcast too when it happened. We were like, "Holy hell!"
It's like
Oh, you're
that,
talking about the guy who uncovered him.
but of
are you talking
course,
about? I'm trying to
the
listen.
Flatbush Girl live stream. Boom,
Oh,
boom,
yeah,
boom,
you're saying
boom,
that I
boom,
got
boom,
on that.
boom,
Okay,
boom.
I missed. I
What was the
spaced
beef?
out.
What was the beef initially
Okay,
between
hold on
you
one
guys?
second. Okay.
Was it that you laughed at that and that she got offended?
No. I've been working on Flatbush Girl for a year before that. Honestly, that was one of the great marketing moves of all time. No one was wise enough to pick up on it.
I wasn't following so
I'm going to say it
closely.
straight to the camera. Anyone who paid attention.
That was you on the live stream.
Anyone that-
Very impressive.
That's
I know,
so
right?
many people think that, by the way. Like, actually
now
think
that
that.
I was at a table. This
Laibel wishes that was on the live stream.
on exactly. Sean
We all do.
Sean showed us this past week, actually.
My goodness.
I was at a friend's house in Queens,
it.
and he's like, "Oh, come with me. There's enough stuff happening in this house. Just come." It was between Mincha Maariv, you know, depressed time.
Yes.
Between Mincha Maariv on Shabbos day.
Yes.
So I was like, "All right, let's just kill this depression for an hour and go there." Anyways, I walk in. There was like 50 yeshiva guys, which is like. That is specific, like right out of Torres Chaim yeshiva guy crew is like
He doesn't
I'm
know
a
what that is,
celebrity.
but yeah.
No, I don't. But that's
It's like your typical.
I get it.
That's where that's our guys.
That's
like, they
America's
love
a
us.
Torah in 2023.
That's
Does that
what?
help? It's America's a Torah in 2023.
Nope.
Okay, also.
I'm
he's-
too modest for
You're,
that.
you're,
not
yeah.
Jewish.
Anyways, the point is
Like Torah Academy of Bergen County, kind of. Okay. keep
anyways, the point is that so at the table, so I walk into the kitchen, and the father is like
going. This is in her. This is where the location is. What?
my friend. I was at a friend for Shabbos,
Yeah.
and he
I'm
brought
already
me. So I'm at a friend for Shabbos in Queens. He brought me.
Shabbos is the seventh day in the Jewish.
Oh, like Seventh Day Adventist?
He brought me to in between Mechamar on Shabbos day. He's like, "Oh, come with me. I'm going to this house quickly. There's like some sort of offer for something happening. Just come with me." Anyways, I said, "Okay." I didn't know what I was walking.
The
into.
Shabbos where you find yourself in places.
I walk into
been
this house, and they were making an offer for their son, and apparently the father is not apparently, it was very apparent extremely quickly, is obsessed with me, literally. And there were like 50 yeshiva guys, friends of the chassan, that were there. So it was just like, and then the husband brings me to his wife in the groom, right? Anyways,
God, we have so much crossover appeal.
the father brings me to his wife in the kitchen, and there's like 8 35 to 45-year-old women just sitting at this table.
You mean my market?
Well, and literally they're all like, right away, he's like, "Dude, you know this guy's mislabeled? This guy is going crazy. This guy must have still been drunk from the morning."
Talking you, yeah.
Anyways, and they were like, a few of them some of them didn't know who I was, which I was very upset about, of course. Anyway, so they're like, the other one's like, "Oh, no, that was," like, "Oh, you're the Flatbush, that was you." And right away I knew exactly what they thought. Like the ones that like picked up on it, they didn't.
They thought he was the
fully
one on
know.
the live stream, and they meant
Back to that, I could tell right away the people that actually thought I was the one waving my schlong. I was the live.
I love that you call it schlong. This whole saga, you're like schlong. I love that. I just love that.
Oh, was that the?
We gotta bring schlong back. It's an underused term.
Anyways, whatever. It was just
that
funny.
doesn't count as a Yiddish word. 'cause
And
that's
let
like
me
American.
say that.
Yeah, that's been
I
American.
had to sit there and explain to them
Yeah.
that no, that was not me, even though there's reason to be happy if it was, but still that was not me. And I just gave a reaction.
That was
to
some
them.
Norwegian or Scandinavian dude.
That was
Something
that was a
else.
horse.
Okay, so they all thought that. But the
Whatever. And then obviously they all had to set me up and get me a shidduch. And I was like,
Because they didn't believe it wasn't you on the podcast. No.
But you're saying that what led to the beef and the fallout and the back and
no.
forth?
So I'm just saying. So for me, I specifically, I started with Flatbush Girl a year prior because I wanted to build it up to be a thing. And by the time it became full
You
circle,
started what, like trolling, going back
Yes,
and forth, all
yes,
this kind
yes.
of stuff.
Started,
And
like-
her whole thing is like agunas and all this.
all of
bring
it,
the
to
agunas.
the top and bottom. I was just going at her about whatever the hell it was, and I didn't do it all at once. I just did it steadily. Now it happens to be when that thing happened, I'm like, oh, this is a perfect time to just jump on her case, and no one had gotten to it yet. That was the key part. It was like going around, but still by the next night, no one had talked about it. So I'm like, oh, perfect time.
You little troll.
So real talk, I was in the shower. I still remember this, and I'm like, just thinking about it. I'm like, I know
You're thinking
exactly.
about it in the shower?
I'm like, yeah, I think all my good ideas come in the shower.
No, you were
He's
thinking
thinking about the
Flatbush
live stream
Girl.
in the shower.
He was thinking about Flatbush.
He's just
Girl.
going like this. Oh my god.
Anyways, I was thinking, I still remember. I'm like, I was thinking, I know exactly how to do this. I get out and I just pick up my phone, right, knock it out. And I still,
You can.
I still remember the second I posted that. And not only that, I asked. It's so funny because I asked. I think first I asked Zach. I asked Zach and Shmuley right after I posted it. I'm like, "We good to go, or is this too much?" Zach calls. He's like, "Laibel, it's freaking hilarious." Then. Sorry, Zach. That is what happened.
No, I'll stand by. I thought it was funny.
Shmuley responds with like, ha ha ha, like caps, like whatever for like. Anyways, I'm like, what do you think? He's like, keep it up. 3 minutes later, Shmuley's like, I think you should take it down. I go look, already like 28 shares. It was like 3 minutes in. I'm like, all right, this is done.
It was a post. What would you said was shares?
From the reel.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying it blew the fuck up instantly. Like it was very fast. And then I woke up the next morning, the Jerusalem Post had written it up. I was like, where the fuck did this come from? Like what?
All right. Well, so
Horse penis comedian Laibel Weiner.
No, literally. By the way, if you read it, by the way, it's actually of the most funny.
Wait, while you look that up,
yeah,
I'm gonna find it right now. Hold on.
As a comedian,
yes.
Like, what is your take on this? We're in a weird time now with comedians.
Right.
What just happened to Matt Rife? I'm sure you're caught up on it. He got like
Zach, we
basically
have to read
canceled for a
this.
joke.
Hold on 1 second.
Oh, did he get canceled though? No. He
There is no canceling anymore. I think because now that like
now you just go on Jordan Peterson's
or you
podcast.
can you
I'll
can
just to wrap up the Flatbush Girl saga, the whole thing back and forth on. I remember like you were trying to defend it as funny, and she was taking offense to it.
It was funny. It could also
My
be
whole
offensive.
thing was it was not okay what happened to her.
Of course, none of
And
us think it
that's
was.
why we all laughed about it, and it's unfortunately at her expense because like anything in life, a streaker goes into the middle of a baseball game, everyone goes and freaks out precisely because it's not okay.
Right.
And it's like we're not confused. We're not justifying what he did, but like our response sometimes is like somebody's pants fall down, someone falls off a ladder.
Right.
It's not funny to the person falling off the ladder, but people have that reaction. It's part of life.
The point I was making at that time was just that like.
So what was
if he did the joke, if he made that joke in a comedy club, it would kill. It'd be great. If he made it around a Shabbos table with the boys and the women, kill. The fact that we're like Jew, at the time we were big Jewish influencers. Like we really were like doing the Jew thing.
I see.
And like she's a frum woman, and there's already like she's fighting against all this misogyny within frum world. There's so much context there that it's like, okay, hey, just be on my side.
I just think it was like you can obviously say that was a terrible thing that he did, and we laughed to sort of like.
We weren't even the only people that
as
made
medicine. Jokes. It's like, oh my god! Even
you
like
made jokes
everybody,
about it, right?
Yeah, everybody
So
was like,
did,
it's
Mendy
outrageous. It's exactly that. It's totally not okay. You know, if anybody puts their hands on somebody or goes to verbal abuse or anything like that, like there's a line, but it's like, yeah, that was precisely not okay, which is why I think people reacted that way.
So that literally just happened to Matt Rife. He made a domestic violence joke.
Yeah, I saw that. He wasn't canceled. I just saw.
He
What
wasn't
happened?
canceled, but he
he
lost a tremendous amount of fanship, and his name is now
Because
kind
of
of
a domestic-
persona non grata now a little bit.
You get canceled if you allow yourself to get
Yes, thank you.
If you
The
apologize,
reason why Trump, people don't understand this. The reason why Trump never
I feel
has
like we're
a
gonna be
problem.
here for a while.
I just want to say one very
Six
something.
times
No
on the
one
podcast.
freaking understands this. The reason why Trump is not able to be canceled is because all the people that are his fans do not love him because they don't like being canceled.
Yeah.
On the left, since they're pro being canceled, if you do anything, the minute they want to cancel you, it's within their DNA to cancel. So if you do anything wrong, you are now canceled. You can get canceled. Right?
if Matt Rife put out a statement saying, it's a teachable moment and I have seriously reflected upon my remarks and I am terribly sorry. Domestic violence is a very serious issue, blah, 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 blah.
Biggest mistake.
Then he's canceled. But you know what he did? He threw up a link on his Instagram to click on it for a helmet.
It was the first time he ever made me laugh.
Yeah, no, but it was just like, it's like Joe Rogan had an N-word video compilation. And he just said, and he made an apology video, but he was just like, those are nasty, those are bad. But it was so obviously disingenuously compiled that he moved on from it, and so did everybody. Like, don't allow
I
yourself
didn't even know
to be
he had
canceled.
that.
Yeah, it circulated when
By the way, the
CNN was
person-
trying to take him down, and everybody was
I'll tell
trying
you
during
one
COVID.
Remember when they made him yellow? CNN
Yeah,
like
of course,
made
but
him
they
yellow.
did that video to show and everybody knows like that he's not a racist and that this is just taken out of context to make it look bad. Like referring to the word is not the same thing as using it on somebody and meaning it.
Cry
you definitely
me a
shouldn't be saying it, but
river.
Whether you should or not be saying,
But it doesn't
we
mean he's a bad
understand
guy.
as thinking human beings the difference between a KKK member calling somebody that and Joe Rogan referring to it or recounting a story that had the word. Now, obviously, using the word casually, it's a loaded term. I'm not trying to like bring it back. I'm just saying we know the difference. everybody. So if you apologize,
I'm sorry, but we are naming this episode Amit. Kozak wants to bring that word back.
Yeah, if you, I'm just saying, we all know in cancel culture, like when someone has a fake apology, then they're like caving to the mob and they're allowing themselves to be canceled. And like guys like Bill Burr who get in hot water for a second.
Oh, Bill Burr will never apologize for anything.
I'm just saying these guys who say things and then you're like, oh my God, he's getting canceled. It's like, no, he's not. He's if you do something criminal,
right?
If you do something wrong, that's called canceling. That's called getting arrested or paying fines. That's what canceled.
Well,
really
actually,
is.
you can do something kind of criminal and get away with
it. It's
it.
a good thing. He deserves.
I think he's out.
I don't even think he's gonna be canceled. I think he's
out.
gonna go on tour when he comes
out
out.
of jail.
No
He's out of
way.
jail.
Yeah,
he's out of jail.
What?
Well,
Cosby's out of jail?
I think so.
You're
You're gonna be the next Bill Cosby.
He's someone that should be canceled.
Correct.
If you imagine who's buying tickets to the Cosby World Tour?
Put him in the
hell of a
pudding
lot
pop
of
with the
people.
jello and the pills in the pudding pop. If you do something criminal, the real cancellation is paying criminal fines or going to jail. Everything else that if you say as a joke and you mean it as a joke,
I
or
totally
whatever,
disagree with you. You're not gonna. If no one finds out, you're not gonna buy to his show. You're not gonna buy tickets.
I want to
If
go
no
to a
one
show
finds-
and it
if no one
finds out
finds it-
he's just doing an hour of rape jokes. That would be
No, I'm just saying if you do bad things, real bad things,
real bad things.
you deserve what's coming to you. If you don't do bad things and you make good jokes, or some people don't like the jokes, they're jokes.
Cancel
and I
culture's
defend
not
the
really
spirit
real.
of that.
The only time I think cancel culture is real is there are actual professors in colleges who have lost jobs.
In
But
academia, you're not joking.
Exactly.
So
right.
in academia, you're not joking.
That was my thing about Chappelle.
Chappelle wasn't joking at certain
He
points.
wasn't joking.
About
Like,
what?
I
That's when
never
it got disturbing.
I never
About what specifically?
I always defended Chappelle like on the until like
On the trans stuff, I was very defended.
until October
defensive
7th.
of it,
Like I always and whenever like someone said like, but Dave Chappelle's anti-Semitic, I said no, he's not. It's comedy, right? He was doing. He was,
I didn't hear you heard what he said specifically because I didn't.
The wave
were
of
two different
cancellation
things.
attempts on Dave Chappelle had to
Right.
do with his specials that involved trans jokes and all these things.
No, he also had an SNL monologue after Kyrie and
I saw
Kanye.
that. I saw all of it. So
Right,
whichever,
but then and then after October 7th, he was on tour and he had a comedy show where he stopped doing comedy for like a good 20 minutes and just went on a rant about how evil Israel is.
Did he actually do that? Did you see it?
There's no video.
There's no
proof.
video.
Okay,
of
so
it.
then I don't buy it. Let me see it, and then I'll listen to it.
No, you can't bring in phones to it. It's
I don't give a
documented.
shit what it is. Why I should listen to some person who has an
Why is it
opinion?
different than a witness? No, it's a witness.
No,
Alleged.
but everyone has an opinion. Get the hell out of here.
There were 100 Jews that walked out of the show.
Zach watched Dave Chappelle's SNL, thought it was terrible. I watched it, was like, no, I think it's funny.
You didn't see
It's
any
okay.
problems with
I
it?
didn't say it was terrible.
It's not about whether or not I saw problems.
iffy.
Dave Chappelle.
I don't
but
think
then
it's a problem
You have to be
until-
very careful.
Yeah, you do.
I don't like Jews who just
Guys,
run
but-
the anti-Semitic card every single time. Chappelle has a specific way of how he does his comedy,
Yeah.
which is that he plays both sides in everything. Okay? He starts off sounding like he's serious on one end and having an opinion, and then he makes a joke at the very end of 3 minutes about it, and then goes all the way to the other end.
But he didn't do that in the monologue.
I didn't think it was.
My critique from a comedic and then
Wasn't-
sort of ethical standpoint was, I love the Jewish jokes in the beginning. I loved all the stuff he was talking. It's Shananatam. I'm not taking a stand that, he can't joke about Jewish people. Like, a lot of the criticism on him on trans issues was, you can't joke about the trans community. I was like, you can joke about anything. What happened in the Dave Chappelle monologue that disturbed me, and I think a lot of Jews, was like, at one point, he's not making jokes. He goes into commentary, and then there's no punchline or
Well, there
payoff.
was a punchline.
No, he said something really weird where he was like, now Jews have been through terrible things, but you can't blame that on African Americans. You just can't. But that didn't ring true for anybody because nobody at the time was doing that. If anything, Kanye was the one blaming Jews for the faults of things happening in his community. And so that was disturbing.
listen to it
And then
again,
he
to
didn't
be
make a
honest.
joke, and I was being kind of critical about it. And then like the weird, bizarre vibe I took away from it was, we're coming off the heels of Kanye making some of the worst comments about
that I
Jews
disagree.
that we haven't heard in forever. And what the monologue kind of did was soften all of that. For Kanye, I don't feel like it softened it for Jews to feel safe. And that was weird because at the end he ended with whoever they are. And there was just a very strange...
But I think,
it had a very strange arc to it. That was my critique.
I hear you.
I don't think Dave Chappelle's anti-Semitic, but I do think...
you don't think he's anti-Semitic?
He probably has some bias.
Look, do I think
But-
his experience has informed him that what he's showing us is that he's had experiences probably with Jews and industry and things
Yeah, of
like
course.
that
He's
that
in
have
Hollywood.
made him, I don't know, Semitic suspicious
I'm not
at
talking about
times.
the Kyrie Kanye thing. I'm
But,
talking
but,
about-
not anti-Semitic, like
talking about
hateful
the-
towards Jews.
I think if you hold countries to different standards, and then one of those countries just happens to be run by
Oh, you're
Jews,
basing that on the recent thing.
Yeah, the
about
recent
thing.
things. No. But I think that
sounds- yeah.
those recent remarks inform everything else. Meaning, until that point, I said his monologue and I said wasn't anti-Semitic. He's just a comedian. But then once he like kind of revealed himself as an actual anti-Semite, I go back and watch those things through the lens of him being a
But
real
in fairness,
anti-Semite.
you didn't see it. You have to see it. I don't believe the fact that someone says something. I'm sorry.
Let's say
it's
he
not
did
enough.
though. Like
The problem is, Laibel, I agree with you. The problem is then we're giving carte blanche to any comedian on tour to say whatever the hell they want because there's no
Carte
proof.
blanche. I just if I have no idea what someone said.
Comedians
how do I
aren't
know?
recorded though.
Huh?
Comedians are never recorded. That's the rule.
I'm just saying I'm not going to
all
trust.
I can tell you is what's in somebody's heart. Like, do I think like Dave Chappelle is somebody like I'm worried about as an anti-Semite publicly out there? Not at all. I think he's got a lot of Jewish friends. He has a lot of positive experience with a lot of Jewish people in his life. I think there are certainly a lot of most certainly Jewish people in his life that he's had very unpleasant experiences with.
Same, brother.
So like, yeah. So I think it's a little.
I'm not nervous at him mugging me on the street.
It's a little too low.
Right. He's nervous about his
It's a little
influence.
too low resolution to say something like that.
I'm not nervous about him like again, like I'm not nervous about him like the
being
guy
hateful.
Right. I'm nervous about him spreading lies about the state of Israel.
I understand
let me
that.
say this.
I
Why-
understand like the consequences of certain things he will say that are
that trickles down
sloppy
to
that
actual
can lead to
violence.
anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
But him personally, like I don't know him, and I know a lot of people. But I certainly wouldn't
Hold on.
ascribe that label to him. I think it would be low resolution.
Would you
and
say he's mislabeled?
sloppy.
Boom! Brand awareness.
Do you have a different view now?
I'm
Based
a huge
on,
fan of him too.
Do you have a different? Do you have a?
I think he's a genius. I hate
Do you
him.
have a different view on the like his comedy towards the transgender world, trying to being offended by him now that
Yes, because the transgender premise for Dave Chappelle was you cannot joke about our community. And I think he can joke about any community, including Jews. I love the Jewish jokes. Jokes. If he's making jokes, I defend it.
part of comedy is also bringing out
Yeah.
certain truths within something and joking about that. Like,
It has to be, I mean, look.
so meaning there's aspect to Jewish stereotypes which are 100% accurate.
Yeah.
I just don't like. I like
Label's a walking example.
I like to have meaning. If you're in Hollywood,
Joke is
Jews
about-
like money. Factual, right? We do. We like freaking money. We're all wealthy. We're all do well. Someone making a joke, a lot of
for
us,
your damn self.
proportionally by a
I
mile,
get
the
what
most
you're
successful
saying.
people. Okay. Now, for someone like Dave Chappelle to have interactions with Jews that are not necessarily always good, because he's seen a lot of Jewish people be crazy about their money, and therefore allude to that.
I am all for
as a
jokes
thing.
about Jews and money. I'm all for jokes about Jews and money. I support Holocaust jokes.
Okay, so what do you mean?
You make a lot of them also.
No, so what do you mean?
tried.
So I'm trying to understand exactly what you're saying.
Jokes. If you are joking, then you are joking.
disagree with
If you
this.
are making a serious point, you evaluate it differently by different standards.
Chappelle's
And I think
entire-
Chappelle,
I disagree
he's
with you.
doing jokes, but
His
if he's
point is that he's
I
getting
watched-
that because he's a comedian, he's getting a pass to give a TED talk.
No, I've watched so much Chappelle. He does this with everything. If you go through
not
all
in
of his
that
specials,
particular SNL monologue as compared to trans jokes.
But for someone
That's
who
all.
is so funny, to go that long without being funny at all is concerning because he's just talking
Yeah.
about how evil
Oh,
Jews are.
if it was, so I remember
Then
watching
it feels
the monologue.
too real.
I'm being very particular and very critical about a specific monologue.
offended.
Not Dave Chappelle in the totality of his
understand.
comedy, but I'm not making a distinction between trans and Jews because I'm Jewish and partial to that. I'm saying jokes. Like the
understand.
intention of a joke is to find a little bit of truth in something and find the funny in it. Exaggerate
If a
it.
video
Play on
surfaced-
stereotypes. But intention has to be human.
I understand.
Not I'm making a serious point.
I got it. I got it.
If a 20-minute
Seems like-
video surfaced of Chappelle just ranting about trans people
Yeah.
with no punchlines, that's going to be a lot more problematic.
Correct.
For sure.
That's a
And
cancellation.
and if it happened with Jews, then I would obviously have a totally different take. That's all. I'm just saying, alleged. I don't.
No, I
like
would have
hearing
the same
alleged.
take. I'm
Yes.
just saying if there was a serious rant by him about any particular
Yeah.
group that wasn't a joke, then you're like, eyebrow raise.
Right.
What the hell was that?
Right.
But if you're doing an act, that's fine. I just sometimes at a moment there was moments in the monologue where there were no punchline, there was no payoff. You were just like, what's going on there? I know it's a kind of
I want to bring up
dated
a
subject.
Do you think that there are times, even in community, even if you're trying to be funny in comedy, where if there's a group of people, let's say Jews right now are really getting the shit kicked out of them, let's say, and then in a year from now it's going to be for some reason the Indian population. Do you not make jokes at that time or even at that time? Because I think some of the criticism against Chappelle was trans people are getting their asses kicked right now, so don't punch them while they're down. There's that aspect.
I don't
What's your
like the
thoughts on
whole
it?
punch them while they're down thing. Funny is funny, and funny is kind of determined by the mood and culture of the moment. So like when you can joke about something and how, there's a delicate balance there. I respect the attempt to do it. A bad joke might be offensive at different times to different people, but it's a joke.
I think if
and,
it's
and
not-
you're
ends
like,
up not being
well,
funny.
I didn't love that because it hurts things a little bit. But if it's a really good joke and really can cut through all that, and I defend the process of like attempting to find the funny even in the most horrible situations because it comes from a place of love. It doesn't come from a place of hate. It comes from a place of hate, that's kind of
People can tell when a joke. There are jokes.
and
that
funny
can,
wins, and I know it's
wins,
not.
and people
It's
can tell when it
subjective,
comes from hate.
But you know, like what's
I
that?
wonder the day like 9/11 jokes became funny.
like 3 days later.
No, like they tried it at the roast. There was a roast of
Pete Davidson, that was great.
that was great. But like earlier,
Those
somebody
jokes killed.
Gilbert Gottfried tried to do jokes about 9/11 at a roast that happened like a couple days after,
Right.
and people were like,
I can
people
imagine.
were not responding. And then Jeff
really,
Ross,
the roast of
Jeff Ross
9/11
comes out
happened.
to save Gilbert Gottfried. And said like, hasn't there been enough bombing in this city? But you see what happens there? Like it's just this catharsis. Like okay.
I would say the first roast of 9/11 happened on 9/11.
Oh, that's the joke that was made in Pete Davidson's.
Was
yeah,
that?
yeah.
You ever seen
That's
the
so
Comedy
funny. That
Central
must have been lodged.
It was Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr said, "I am so appalled by all of the jokes made about Pete Davidson's father who perished on 9/11. This is not the roast of Pete Davidson's father. That was in 2001." And everyone
very good.
That's exactly what he said. You memorized the.
You memorized the joke word for word.
and everybody went, "Oh!" You know.
Like people took it well.
Yeah,
Oh,
Pete
yeah.
Davidson was like, "That was dope. That was dope."
It was a couple years ago.
That was
though.
dope.
Like Pete Davidson like embodies that like persona. Like he
Yeah.
like that's his whole. I wanted to ask you one thing about if we have like 2 minutes about because we were on the anti-Semitism thing. I personally, I was so proud of this moment. I never felt like real anti-Semitism in my life until I met Ami, and Ami like kind of brought
And
it
then
into my
Ami
life.
called
And-
you a kike?
No, like we were planning. This was like the first show post, like actually during, like right after October 7th. Me and Ami was planning this big show that like he had to end up canceling because it was like scheduled October 9th or something.
Yeah, 10th. Yeah.
October 10th.
Yeah.
And like, so I was actually getting like live reactions to like when Ami was like changing into this, from this comedian to this like Israel advocate. And our first show after that was like the first stand up for Israel show. Mm-hmm. That was like when we said like, okay, it's okay to do comedy because we're raising money for Israel.
Yeah.
And like, I was like semi-producing the show. And then like literally an hour before the show, you text me a screenshot of a DM from like one of your followers saying like, one was like saying like, hey, I need help like designing a gas chamber to like finish off all the Jews, which I thought was cool because you're a comedian, not like a structural engineer.
Right.
Like, but, and
Sorry,
then,
I can't help you. I know a contractor. Yeah.
and then right
you a great
after
price.
that,
Yeah.
he responded to the story from our show saying like, thanks for the address. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh shit, like this guy's coming for us.
Wow.
And like,
We got
this
security.
was like, yeah,
Why is this guy following you?
I like literally,
What? Oh, he's been great. I don't know. Some people over
How?
the years. Who likes Gary Vee impressions, Prince Harry impressions, Jordan Peterson impressions, and Hamas? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know that cross section, but he's not following me anymore.
Dude, the address count, that's crazy.
Or like, we're coming. Yeah, good to see you.
I was
Like, gonna see
bugging
you there.
out.
Fire.
but you have to understand, like, I'm not canceling the show. It's my
Yeah.
first show in 3 months. I didn't tell anyone about it. I was like, listen,
Yeah,
whatever
it's
happens,
spooky.
happens. I got like one extra security
Most
guard.
of them are just hateful, not like directly threatening, but I sent you that. I'm
was-
like, hey, Dovi, any extra security at this one, just in case? You don't know?
You
There's
were
great-
really the only, like, ended up being like Mark Norman and Elon Gold showed up.
Yeah.
But you were the only like big Instagram presence on the show. So like that was really the most like,
Yeah, and Mark Norman headline. That was pretty cool.
but I guess I don't get how often is that like your reality now? Like, do you feel like not?
There's 2 guards outside. No,
That's because of Laibel. I'm talking about as an anti-Semite.
it's unpleasant in a way, and there's every once in a while I've seen just like, especially Twitter, the things
Twitter
that
is a
people write
garbage
on
pile.
Twitter and AI images that they put up of
Yeah.
like Jews looking like pigs and like celebrating hostages being taken.
Really?
Like, yay, LMFAO, like the sickest stuff. It's like so depraved. And you'll get comments that are like bizarre. If anything is directly threatening, I'll like report it to Instagram. I don't walk around like worried.
But you're not. Like, you're never like nervous.
No.
Soon,
Also,
hopefully you will be.
I hope
I was so jealous of
No,
you. I was like, I
I
can't
was-
wait to get
I
the
really
anti-Semitic
miss-
It's a good
comment.
thing. If you're nervous, that means you have a lot of followers.
Yeah, but I don't.
That
I know
means-
it's not worth it to me. I draw a line at like my own security and my family security. That's not something that's worth.
No, I hear that,
worth
but
the
I'm
sque-
saying
the Jews
let's-
saying worth the squeeze. And I try to like keep my stuff to like Israel focused and not beyond that, like of controversial things that might warrant my like security compromise. But like, I don't walk around like there was a period of time when I would like go out in public or whatever, and if I was like in an event, I'd look over my shoulder occasionally when this stuff was like, who knows who's seeing it, a little bit. If I went to like a protest, a Palestinian protest or something like that, I'd be maybe more cautious. Not, that's the guy. Get the,
Get him.
if there's, they turn violent. Plenty of them turn violent. So like,
Twitter's rather now.
They're
I
slightly
miss
more
when
violent.
the most offensive thing on Twitter was furries.
Anyways.
yeah. Anyway, but I should stay safe. I'll be all right. You'll protect me.
Mir Hashem.
Amen.
Well, I'm not nervous. I'm sure I'll be the first one they interview if anything happens to you.
This could be really good for my career.
I knew him well.
I'll
God
leave
forbid.
it this.
Yeah.
All you need to do is watch them rally and watch our rally.
And watch Mislabeled.
One is burning down fucking buildings and trashing the place. The other, not.
I made a video about that.
A lot of them are not doing
basics,
that.
basics. Yeah, plenty of them are. Go look around the world. Anyways, guys.
You want to end on
thank
that?
you.
All right.
Yeah,
that's a-
Nice.
guys.
Yeah.
New to your pets. That's what I want to end on.
Thank you so much for watching. Ami, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I greatly
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank
You're right
you.
here.
Thank you for having
Say
me.
hello. There you go.
Now point to that camera. And
Guys, thank you so much for watching.
You're welcome.
On to the next one. Peace and love.